HBCU Pulse, the #1 outlet for HBCU students.
You're now locked in to HBCU Pulse. We are the #1 outlet for HBCU life, talking about everything that's important to our culture, from on-campus issues to politics and what's trending on the yard. We always keep that same energy. Don't touch that dial. You're listening to HBCU Pulse Radio.
What's going on, everybody? This is Randall Barnes, the founder of HBCU Pulse and the host of HBCU Pulse Radio, in the building for a very special edition of our live stream on today. We're back at it week 2, where we are syndicating the SIAC football talk that is going on Twitter. It has not started yet. We're going to hop on and you're going to hear me on my AirPods chopping it up, because my HBCU, Fort Valley State University, we finally beat our rival Albany State University, man. I'm super proud for that. But also, more importantly, we're going to be talking about Benedict versus Tuskegee. That matchup is going to be coming up on this weekend. SIAC championship. Benedict is new blood in this thing. And you have Tuskegee, who's a superpower. Like, they're one of the best HBCU football programs in history, and they're back in the championship picture now that Coach Reginald Ruffin is over at now Tuskegee University from Miles College, because Miles College the past decade has dominated the SIAC West. So it's so many great things going on. I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about, some playoffs, because I think that we have a great chance of getting several HBCUs in the playoffs this year. I think Virginia Union and the CIAA, of course, they lost and they're not going to the CIAA championship, but of course they had an amazing season. Jada Byers is doing amazing. Hopefully he gets Harlan Hill trophy buzz. Hopefully he wins. Who knows? But of course they're going. But Benedict, let's not forget that Benedict is up there with Jackson State as the only undefeated HBCU this year. And who knows if Jackson State will stay undefeated. I don't know. I'm not saying that they'll lose. But Benedict is right there, and Benedict went 10-0. Hate to say it, but it's the truth. They swept through Georgia. They played Savannah State, beat Savannah State. They played Fort Valley, who was undefeated going into that matchup along with Benedict, beat Fort Valley. Went to Albany. That was the big game. That really determined, well, it didn't really determine the championship. The Fort Valley game really did, because we beat Albany this year. But that game determined if the Fountain City Classic would be what determines who goes to the SIAC championship. And they beat Albany State in a very close game that was streamed on our friends HBC League Pass Plus. Then you go through, you beat Clark Atlanta, you beat Morehouse, who won a really great game on yesterday. They won a really great game. Go to ESPN Plus and watch that. Man, they get up for more. They get up for Clark Atlanta. The Battle of the AUC, they don't play around about that. So they went through, they beat all the superpowers, Fort Valley and Albany. And now they have to face the one last superpower in Tuskegee University. In the chat right now, if you're here with us and you're live, let me know who you think is going to win between Tuskegee and Benedict College. And I'll give my preview right now. because we're waiting on our good brother D2 HBCU football. Make sure to follow him on Twitter, and you'll be able to see the spaces when it starts, and even chime in and let them know you came from the HBCU poll situation. Let them know. But man, listen, I honestly think Benedict is going to win on next Saturday. I think that Benedict's offense, that run first offense, plus you have a quarterback that can do both. He can run and pass. And then you have a head coach in Chennis Berry that's going to get his guys ready. He's instilled a winning philosophy in them. He is so great at maximizing his talent on the team. I just don't think Tuskegee wins, because I know, it was the start of the season and Tuskegee had to give them their flow, but you played Fort Valley, my HBCU, which was a very heavy run team, and you lost. I'm just saying. Tuskegee, you can never count Tuskegee, and Coach Ruffin is that guy, but Benedict has a great shot. If they don't go in there and,
What's up, everybody? Happy good evening. This time is throwing me off real bad. What's going on, Coach?
Hey, man, I'm checking in. How everybody doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Man, I won't complain, man. We got a lot to uncover tonight, man.
Okay, a lot. Hold on one second. I need to go out and unfreeze my phone for a second.
what's going on? What's going on?
What's up, man?
Man, I am amazing. I am blessed. We beat Albany State, so I'm good. I'm amazing.
You know what? I was so mad that I did not follow my first. I'm telling
Yep.
you, my gut was just like, "Hey, Fort Valley gonna whoop them boys," and I was just like, "Man, I couldn't see it, so I couldn't get out of my own way."
You need to start listening to your gut more. I think your gut is often right.
Yeah, that one. I was like, dang. When I looked at the score, I think it was 14-0. I didn't have much service, so I was when I would get a little service, I would try to check different scores, and I was like 14-0. Dang. And I know Albany State, they just not built to come from behind like that.
And
That's not their game.
well, I want to say this. Like, first and foremost, I want to just start off saying this. That stream was terrible. I heard no commentary. It cut off in the first quarter. I didn't know the score. I had to just count in my head to see what everything was. It was terrible. ESPN Plus, whoever's over that broadcast, has to do better. But I was nervous because Albany State is a great team. They're well coached. They have a great defense. And, I believe they could have come from behind. I mean, they scared Benedict when they played Benedict, and I honestly thought we were going to do what we did with Savannah State last week. But we pulled it out. They've dominated us since I've been at Fort Valley, been involved in the community as an alum. So it feels good to finally beat them. It just feels good.
Well, I'm glad y'all got a victory, and it's crazy because maybe we'll bring this up later on in the conversation, but a few years ago, Tuskegee didn't have enough games, and they end up scheduling Virginia State to try to make the think it's the 8 or 9 game threshold you have to get into the playoffs. Because we had played 2 FCS schools that year, and we needed another one, so we ended up playing. So I meant to ask Chris, what did he think about? Because where Fort Valley would probably be sitting Monday, it's the most dangerous spot for them
Hmm.
because they're sitting idle.
Yeah.
And everybody and all the rest of the D2 conferences, because they do play those 10 D2, those 11 game schedules I meant. It works in their favor. And so it's kind of like, should they pick up the phone and call somebody?
They better pick up the phone. That'll be their best bet.
But my thing is this though. I mean, when it comes to the playoffs, like I'm excited to see, Virginia Union, Benedict, all the HBCUs in the playoffs. I think we'll get a few in. But what is the real benefit of it though? Let's be real. Especially if we might not even win. What's the benefit?
Experience, man. Experience. That could change the program, man.
So when you start thinking about Fort Valley and Albany State and who the players that they're actually fighting over. So you're fighting with West Georgia, you're fighting with Valdosta State. Um, I think some of it has a lot to do with our conditioning. And so that's a whole nother conversation. But you have those coaches, because we had a kicker that when we went in our first round of the playoffs, when we played West Georgia, we had a kicker. He made a 55-yard field goal. West Georgia came back and got him from us, because the next year we couldn't compete in the playoffs anymore because we were going back to the Turkey Day Classic, and they were able to like woo him away with that idea, that hey, we go play for national championships here. And that's one of their selling points. And I think schools like Fort Valley, they've got, I can't remember the last time they were in, with 2008, 2000, I don't know, one of
I
those
think
years.
I think the last year we were in. This is when I was back in high school. I believe it was 2011, around the early 2010s.
Okay. So Albany State has had a little bit of success. People see that they went to the second round a couple of times and say, "Oh, they've had some success." Well, some of it was those first week buys. Like, they tend to get shown up in the playoffs. Um, Tuskegee has had more success than anybody else in the SIAC in the playoffs. It's it's just, it depends on the mentality. Like, what is your program trying to build on? You want to go and compete for national championships. Like, I'm okay with you competing for national championships. I just don't want to hear the excuses when you get beat, because beat them, line
Right.
up and beat those people. Because I firmly believe there's no way you're convincing me that a coach in Livingston, Alabama, at West Alabama, can out recruit one of our own that'll go to West Alabama before they come to Tuskegee. Like, just what? Why would you do that? To go see 1,100 people see you play? And like,
but
so
what I'll say too is this. I'm sorry to cut you off, but what I'll say too is this is like, I think that oftentimes the goal for a lot of these athletes, and just from outside looking in, is they want to play professionally. So I mean, like I understand like how possibly going to the playoffs can help them with that. But you've seen folks that didn't go to the playoffs and didn't succeed in the playoffs get drafted. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you want to go to a team where you can maximize your talent, you can get national exposure, and you can get seen by scouts and possibly get drafted or become undrafted free agent. You know what I'm saying? Like that's why it's like I feel like the whole entire notion, even in D1 and D2, that we got to make it to the playoffs. I just feel like it's sort of convoluted, especially when we haven't had a team that can go and win that. You know,
The playoff gives you more film. So I mean, if you're a player and you're trying to go to the next level, the one thing the playoff can do, it can probably bring you a little bit of national exposure. But again, on the whole tip of trying to go to the league, and again, I think that every player, that should be their end goal, as being a football player. But the more games you get, the more exposure. And you kind of never know who's sitting around in those stands. You know, Again, like this conference championship game, it's a big deal. Any game that you get on ESPN or any of these platforms that we used to didn't get, it's kind of a big deal. When I was at Benedict, I remember my folks could only probably watch us play once a year on TV, and then obviously they would have to travel. So the fact that these guys are getting the opportunity for their games to be streamed online and stuff like that, it's even big for the out of state kids who folks can't show up, every weekend. But the biggest thing about the playoffs is I think it gives the kids more of game film, to showcase, hey, look, I can play ball, even with tougher D2 teams.
That makes sense. I definitely see where you're coming from with that. And to that media point, I was in my head crunching the numbers on this because I plan to talk about this on our podcast about the championship, the SIAC championship. Benedict has had a lot of exposure, not from ESPN, but from HBC League Pass Plus, because 5 games, including that Albany State game, which put him over the hump, like that was on HBC League Pass Plus. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like when you play at an HBCU and you play at an HBCU conference, you have more eyeballs on you because look at like Grand Valley, look at Ferris State, look at Valdosta. They're playing on Flow Sports, which when we were on Flow Sports, we all hated it. Versus you have ESPN that's in the fray putting the game on. You have an HBCU League Pass. You have like other streaming services that are trying to get in there and get these HBCU games before Deion Sanders and even after him. So I feel like it's more attention playing at an HBCU and being, that small fish in a big pond, even for that media side of it.
Yeah, you got a great point right there. It's definitely a plus, nowadays, to watch these kids play. And again, even as an alumni, like I live in Central Florida, so I can't drive up to Columbia every weekend, to watch Benedict. So having the opportunity to be able to screen the game, from my phone or from my TV is definitely helpful for me. Because again, I would much rather watch them play than watch another school play, on TV.
Right. Especially when they're winning. I mean, like Benedict had a historic season and some really great wins. Like y'all were blowing out everybody except Albany State, and that Albany State game was a great game. You know what I mean? So like to have that, broadcasted. Like I think every game was broadcasted. Like that's something that's big, and that's something where it's like you look at some of the greatest teams in HBCU football history, we won't have film on them. You know what I'm saying? Like we have like alumni that tell us these stories and we pass them down. You have like maybe articles and you can find them. But I think that's the biggest thing about this current revolution is like, the culture of HBCUs is sellable for the media. You know what I mean? So like if you have a player that like is like that, they're gonna get more attention playing for Benedict, playing for Tuskegee, which is one of the best HBCU programs, playing for Fort Valley, which is a blue blood, playing for Albany State. They're gonna get more love for that than they'll get playing for University of West Alabama, especially when they're losing to Tuskegee this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you could play, the league will find you. Trust me, it don't matter where you play ball at. One of my teammates actually got a shot at with Tampa Bay, a couple years ago, from Benedict. So again, if you got the tools, man, they definitely gonna get the shot. But again, like I said last week, big plus for the Benedict guys is, you got the HBCU legacy game at the end of the year. Your head coach, he's the offensive line coach, obviously in that game. That's a big deal. I mean, you go down there and get to spend a week with NFL coaches, and you can really get to showcase what you can do. I mean, those are the type of guys you want to, play for. Somebody that's gonna really give you a shot at that next level. I think a lot of people overlook that fact too. But man, at this point, with that game and with the HBCU combine and stuff like that, like it's really no more excuses. Like the excuses are really out the door. And with the media, it's out the door now.
And I want to say this about Benedict too, man. I'm going to commend the local media there because some of our school hardly gets any coverage in the local media. And as Benedict has kind of, doing their own thing, I watch their social media pages and their impressions and the traffic that they drive. They're top tier. in SIC, and you can compare them with some of the bigger, well-known D2 schools like the Ferris States and Benedict is killing the social media game, which has bought them a lot of different attention. So when you start seeing even though everybody have check marks soon, but when you start seeing all the little check marks, retweeting it on the news, start reading the different articles in different places, it's like, hey, Benedict the name is getting out there as it should, and I feel like all our local media should do that and find those stories. One of the stories they told about one of the Benedict players on one of the games they were on, I was like, see, those are the stories that we have to push out to bring not only just the attention for the league, but that we have quality individuals. We have dudes that are making impact. I think about the football player from Morehouse a few years back that ended up on he was on a couple of talk shows for a little dance skit he did teaching kids some about fractions, I believe it was. It's like not only the talent on the field is why we need media attention, but we also need that attention because we have talent in the classroom too at a lot of our programs. So it all helps out.
It does, and one big thing too is like Benedict got sauce. Like Ferris State don't got no sauce, don't got no swag. You know what I mean? Have you seen those graphics with like game 10? Like the championship graphic that Benedict's gonna make that's probably gonna drop on Monday. Like dealing with this with HBCU Pulse, and one of the big things that we're big on is graphic design. It's top notch. Like Benedict has sauce. Like HBCUs have sauce and swag that these D2 schools that might have more talent, that might, win these national championships, they just simply don't have it. That's why you look at Ferris State and their social media ain't popping like that because then they got the sauce.
And while we're on the topic of graphic, I want everybody to look in that comment. It's a graphic in there, and we'll get back to it. But I want y'all to check that graphic out that's in the little chat talk.
Okay.
You can go ahead.
You ain't right. You ain't right.
Hey man, listen, before we even talk about that, man, let's go ahead and recap this week. Because man, you about to get me fired up down here. So let's go ahead and recap this week before we start talking any of that conference championship talk, man.
Hey, where y'all want to start? Y'all want to start with Clark Atlanta? Let Morehouse beat them?
Yes, absolutely. I had Morehouse going 0 for 10 this year, man. I might as well shave the middle of my head.
Yep.
Them guys Morehouse, shout out to Morehouse. We got anybody in here representing Morehouse in the space, man, jump on, man. Look, speak y'all piece. Y'all got y'all one this year, man. Honestly, like I said, I had Morehouse taking the L this year. I thought all them guys might have decided to go do surgery or something like that.
Oh my God.
Stop playing football. But hey, man, shout out to them guys though, for real.
Man, when I tell you, I didn't get a chance, to watch the game because I was out and about, and I was trying to watch the Fountain City Classic, and I was trying to check out Tuskegee versus Miles because that was the better stream on ESPN Plus. But I saw an interview with a player from Morehouse, and he said they smoking on that Panther pack. I'm like, oh man, y'all want that bad? Y'all want that?
Man, I believe we all went wrong on that one because
I told you Morehouse was going to get it together for this last game. I don't know why, but I told y'all it was a good game. It came down
before the surgery.
Say what, sir?
They had to get right before it was time to go figure out how to go cut somebody's body.
This man will not stop. Man, he will not stop. They want a ball, man. They want an extra league too.
Hey, Coach Thomas, look, it came down to the final play of the game. That's what it came down to. Morehouse led the whole game basically. Clark scored with maybe about a minute left in the fourth. They go up 17-14. Morehouse got a big kickoff return and then a quarterback scramble down to about the 2-yard line, and they scored to make it 2017. Really good game. Them boys from Clark had a funeral and walked on the Morehouse campus with a casket and an obituary. I'm gonna put the obituary in the chat for everybody to check it out.
That's wild.
Hey,
Hey,
it was.
can I say this?
Go ahead,
Can
Coach.
I be a little bit? Can I be a little bit controversial real quick? Because listen, when I was at Fort Valley, we didn't do all that. I've seen that. So maybe it's because I do I work in HBCU media, but I see that so much. It ain't really even funny no more. Like if you do it every year, it ain't funny no more. Do another skit. Do something
Yeah,
else. Like come on, man.
yeah,
Like it's not funny no more. Like it's been funny since 2000, man. Come
yeah.
on.
They had a funeral for the football team, and I mean, it was a good game. It was,
Everybody has a funeral. Like do a
yeah.
service.
Do something different.
Like do something else. Do a graduation. I don't know. Do the birth of a champion. I don't
Yeah,
know. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Do an Easter play. I don't know.
yeah. And look, so they had a funeral. Morehouse was going to have the resurrection today in front of Clark, but the school shut it down. Then we had the resurrection.
You mean for real? They might have a
Yeah, they
resurrection.
were going to have the resurrection in front of Clark. The school shut it down.
Now
Oh
listen, that was
man,
a fight now.
that would have been a fight, but that would have
Oh
been dope.
yeah, they would have got the fight, and that's not good for Morris North Carolina. Won't need that press right now. Okay.
Morehouse don't fight, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
say this.
you think
Hey,
that? You
I
think
done
that?
been to so many Morehouse funerals, but I'm gonna just say I'm gonna speak my piece on Morehouse. My freshman year at Benedict, I kid you not, we was their homecoming. We actually beat them, but them guys had man, they felt like in their stadium. Literally, all the fans was on one side, but man, it was the people from the outside of the gate that was talking trash to us. What was crazy? We had guys on the team turning around talking back to the people. Man, it was a little crazy experience, man. But nah. Salute to Morehouse though, for real, man. I talked bad on them last week.
Hey
Salute to
man,
them.
we all one big family. We can talk junk to each other, but we can support each other. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I want to ask you this, D2HC football. So, I was doing my research on Tuskegee and really just looking into like that dominant stretch when they were just like going to the playoffs and dominating the Pioneer Bowl. And I actually watched, a little bit of a game. What makes Coach Slater great? And I mean that like just to learn because because one thing you were saying is that believe in Coach Slater versus Benedict. You said Coach Slater gonna pull somebody's bag. You said the same thing last week. So, like, what is it about Coach Slater that really makes him a legendary coach, and what do you expect for next year? For Clark Atlanta.
um, so I break Slater down into like two different stages. When he first got to Tuskegee, we already had squads. I think some of the squads that didn't do as well, because Comedy, he had a problem with beating Albany State. I think Albany State beat us like 5 straight years in a row for the championship, and they'll be like we'll be 10-1, and they'll be 10-0, or 11-0. And so it went like that for a while, and we just could never get over the hump of beating Albany State with him. So when Coach Slater came, having played at West Alabama, won a couple of D2 national championships, he really knew how to do things that GSC type of way. So when he came in, like he wanted his quarterbacks under center. Even when everybody else was taking their quarterbacks out from under center, he was gonna run. His thing was he liked to run that belly. That was that belly and one. That was his thing, and he beat a lot of people with it because when he first got here, we were able to recruit, out recruit a lot of schools because a lot of schools they wasn't putting money like Tuskegee was putting money into their program. Um, People playing with 12 and 13 scholarships on football, and we sitting there, with our entire 36. You start seeing a slight change, and I think that's when what worries me about Coach Slater is will he adapt? Because there were years before his dismissal at Tuskegee that people had started saying, "Hey, Coach, we like you, but you need to do things a little bit differently because you're losing these games because everybody in the stadium knows what you're going to do." And I don't. It was just one of those things where he didn't learn from it, and he kind of shut down. So when he got the Clark job, and he was talking, I wanted to see if he had that old fire in him. Was he going to establish that idea of playing strong, playing hard? You know, his whole little talking points that he likes to talk. Um, and who was he gonna bring in up under him? So I know he got there late. I'm gonna know if Coach Slade is gonna be successful at Clark by what he does in the offseason with that staff.
Mm.
And I don't really talk on people's job, but if Slater doesn't make changes on that staff in 2 more years or another year or so, they're gonna be firing him at Clark.
But
But
wouldn't that be so? So the legend card wouldn't save him?
save him from getting fired at Clark,
Yeah,
no,
because
because
I mean, because he's a legend. Where it's like you ain't gonna give a legend, someone that brought Tuskegee a lot of success, that chance to turn it around.
okay, but see, Dr. French, who's at Clark, was the president at Miles, who hired Ruffin,
Okay.
and he gave Ruffin, "I listen, I'm gonna give you what you need. Go out and win." And Ruffin did just that. So I'm sure, like Slater has said this in a couple of interviews, that they now have their full allotment of scholarships at Clark.
Okay.
They're going to give him the tools, but Dr. French, he wants to win. So because Tuskegee was not a rebuild job when Slater got there. They had just came off of that wasn't a tour, that was the 9-3 season. They had a 12-0 season, 9-3 season. And when he got there, and he'll admit this himself, Jakar Atkinson was already there. Why Cumberland them didn't take him with them to Jackson State, I have no idea. But they left him there. Man only lost one game. Been his
Wow.
2-year start. And that game was stolen from us because that was a touchdown at that Turkey Day Classic with Alabama State. But, you know, he had a good foundation. And he was able to instill that. And we were really big. But it's just like over time, man, I think it was just one of those things where, and I'm one of his biggest advocates because I was mad. I was mad with my own institution with how they handled his dismissal because he's a legend. He's in our history books. Okay. He's the second winningest coach. It will take years for somebody to do what he did at Tuskegee. So I'm like, handle him with a little bit more care than that. Even if we were going to move in a different direction, handle it differently. So I'm really glad to see him get another opportunity because he did not want to be done coaching. So it's just like you're gonna have to watch and see. I know he's gonna try to get bigger because they need to get bigger. That's one of Clark's problems. They are small. Like that is a small team. So I know he's gonna try to change that because he's gonna want bigger bodies on the offensive line. A Slater offensive line is gonna look more so like a Benedict offensive line because those are the type of guys that to run his system. I know that he said he stopped doing the play calling, but I noticed at the Tuskegee game, he's very much involved in the play calling. Very much involved. I don't know if it was just for that game, but Slater was very much involved in calling the plays at the Tuskegee Clark game. So he likes to tote that around, but it's like one of those things that he has his hand really guarded on. But that also requires him to have a hell of a defensive coordinator. He has to have a good defense coordinator. What they do, like I'm not concerned about. I think he's open with Moncrief that's there at Clark. I do think they complement each other because Moncrief is going to push him in that passing game area, and so with the type of quarterback that they have, and he's coming back. So I know they're gonna build around that, but they also want to be able to run the ball a little bit better. So it's just a lot. I'm fine with their offense. It's what's gonna go on that defensive side of the ball that concerns me about whether Clark will next year compete, because I think next year he needs to win 6 games if he's building.
I see it. I definitely see where you're coming from. I wanted to ask you because like the fact that like, because you said even on Twitter before we started doing the spaces, you said you just got faith. You have faith. It's in him that he's gonna get the win, and it just didn't happen. And then the one game, and I feel like it's the gimme game with the team that is struggling, that lost a lot of that talent, that hasn't been able, to get over the hump this year after having a successful year last year, and you lose to them. You know what I'm saying? And they're 1-9. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely see where you're coming from. And honestly, for him, like him being a legend, I honestly hope that he does turn it around because there's no one that's going to catch his records because D2 jobs are come up jobs now. You go to D2 and then you go to a D1 school. You know what I'm saying? Like that's why you hear all the conversation about Coach Berry. Now I'm not even trying to bring it up, but it's like, hey, he's successful this year. Let's get him to Pine Bluff. Let's give him to SWAC, the D1. And it's like, let him build something here, let him build that success. But in this culture, we're like, nah, get him out of here. He's better than the SIAC. When it's like, that's insane because you'll never see that record get called, honestly.
Hey, let's move on real quick from that because I mean we got a championship game. We ain't trying to worry about the future. We're worried about going 1-0. Hey, let's go back. Let's go back and talk about again some of these scores. Kentucky State lost to Central State. When I thought Kentucky State was going to take that one, but
I did too.
They fell short.
That's the one I was telling y'all about. It was the body language. I mean, now they fought, but it was the body language of the Kentucky State team after that game. I was like, there's no way they can get up to beat that Central State team. But it seemed to be a good, hard fought game when I looked at the score.
Yeah, Savannah State they ended up topping Lane this week,
I knew that.
44-38.
I knew that, and it was an offensive battle too. I didn't get a chance to see that game, but it was an offensive battle, like I expected. I think Lane's gonna be great next year.
It was wet down there in Savannah Saturday. Lane don't do well when the weather change.
They scored 38.
Well, I'm gonna say they don't win. I ain't gonna say they don't do well. I'm gonna say they don't win.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you this about Lane. They're losing too much offensive power. That was they lose too much offensive power this year. This to me, out of all the schools, their season was the bust. With what they had coming back and what they had did the previous year, I'm like, if they just upgrade that defense to get a stop every blue moon, you don't even got to get a stop every game because your offense is that potent. That little pass and catch game that they play that well. I was like, if y'all could just give them a stop every now and again, y'all would win. If they could have got a stop in the Tuskegee game, they would be going to the SIAC championship game. If they could, they couldn't get. If they could have got a stop in the Kentucky State game, it's man, I'm disappointed in them. They go up there, they play Pine Bluff. They should have beat Pine Bluff the first game. They beat Tennessee State, and we all, like, all right, and I'm thinking, all right, this might be Lane's year.
I told you that was a Super Bowl game. D2. I told you that was a Super Bowl game. That Tennessee State game.
Yeah, man, because it's been rocking. It's been rocking for them since then. So I don't know. Maybe he can go. I mean, he recruits all over. That's one thing. You look at his roster; they got guys from all over. They actually came their quarterback. They got him out of Montgomery, Robbie Lee. Last year they had a receiver from right out of Tuskegee's backyard, Noda Sucker. They came down here and whooped our butts with people that they recruited out of our backyard, and that's what stings the most. So I got faith that guy can go out. He can go and find guys. Okay, he goes and find them, and he brings them there. So, Coach Brown, he's doing, a great job at Lane. Making Lane competitive because Lane was like Miles at one point. They were just you just schedule him. That's a W. Like those were given games on the schedule, but now no. You got to play them.
You got Tuskegee Miles. D2, I know you was tuned in. Give us your thoughts.
Um, honestly, I was saying on Twitter, Skiki by 40 or whatever, and talking a little trash talk because that's one of the best rivalries in D2. Um, how it started, and it was good to see that the intensity still be there. Even after the coach Ruffin Slater type of mental battle, but now the schools have really bought into like we don't like Miles and they don't like us. Okay, so the environment was great. It's homecoming at Skiggy. It,
35K, is that accurate?
it's I think that's just a low ball number.
Mm.
A low ball number. We easily had 40K there,
Wow.
because we tailgate in the stadium. Um, so the people who just actually come to the tailgate, they don't get counted in that. So it's like one of those things where yeah, we had 40 to 50,000 people in here, but whatever the number, I mean the pictures speak for themselves. Like I don't know if y'all saw in the pictures, it was packed. Okay, you might have had 5,000 people just on the track because it was just nowhere to go. And I know like they kept threatening to give us a penalty when people would be, up under the field goal post. So it was a good time. Hats off to Miles. They came ready to play.
Yeah, I had them for the upset this
Yeah,
week, last
yeah,
week.
You
yeah,
did. You did. You were almost right.
yeah. They came ready to play. And Skiggy, at first, I it was wild to me because looking at Ski, I don't know whether they didn't think Miles was coming with that level of intensity because it was like, oh shoot, we in a game now. I meant because there was a couple of times that if Miles had an efficient offense or even just a mediocre offense, like Miles' offense has been horrible, but if Miles would have had a mediocre offense, they could have won that game because there were so many opportunities for them to go up. They could have been up 21 points on us. Just miss passes because the guy was open. Like their offense held them back this year because that is not a 1 in 19. That's not a 1 in 19. And their defense is not a 1 in 9 defense. Miles really is a quarterback away from playing for SIAC championship. Because you go back and look at the games that they lost. They lost those games. I mean, that you make a pass here. They could have beat Bama State if they would have had some of the open guys that he hit that he didn't hit that he overshot. Man, they could have been up on State. So you look at their record and you say, dang, that has to be a rough feeling for a program that was where it was, and to have that record. But you got to look back a little bit later and be like, you know what? I believe Coach Shea gonna turn that around. So I know we gonna catch it at the Bears Den next year. Um, but overall, good game. Tuskegee, man, we ain't never out. We may get down, but we ain't never out. We done won so many games like that this year. I think what's our third overtime game? No, it was our second because we was about to go to overtime with Allen, but we won that. So two overtime games. And clearly the first overtime never gets the job done. It was two overtimes, and that's what I'm looking for this weekend. Not to jump, but just want to throw that shot.
All right, so you got next game we looking at got Benedict Allen.
We got to talk to you. So, like, what'd you think about that?
Are you talking about the Benedict or you talking about Tuskegee?
Benedict. Like Benedict Allen. Like, what'd you think about Benedict? Because they blew him out.
Yeah, well, I knew that was coming, man. But I'm gonna say this, man. I feel like, I don't know what's going on monetarily wise, but I feel like, they shouldn't have had that game outside of Columbia, South Carolina. I mean, Benedict obviously got the venue. I don't. Again, I was talking with some of Allen alumni on Facebook or whatever, and they were saying that Benedict wanted most of the. They wanted like a 60-40, gate and all of that. But I'm like, man, that game could be so much bigger as far as the rivalry aspect of it. But when you having a game like that outside of Columbia, which is two schools literally in Columbia, Benedict Stadium is literally walking distance from both schools, that you could just walk to the stadium. You have it outside. Student body. You know what I'm saying? They're not able to come watch the game. Now, obviously, we all know the outcome. I knew Benedict was gonna probably. I had Benedict plus 30 against them. But again, I just feel like for the kids' sake, like they should have had that game in Columbia. Like it should have been in the Met.
That makes sense. I think that oftentimes in those situations it goes down to money, and I almost look at it like how Savannah State and Fort Valley played in my hometown of Macon versus playing in Savannah. It's all a money thing, and the best way to get money is just to hold it at a neutral site. But the way you said it makes way more sense because, like you said, both of them are in the city.
Yeah, if you know that area, man, you know that like all the students, because again, man, rivalries are built off of the fans. You know what I'm saying? More so than the actual teams playing. The students and stuff like they could have, and I'm looking out for that person that's sitting in the dorm that ain't got nothing to do on Saturdays. Like they could have did a better job with that. But again, obviously money talks and everything can walk. So, it is what it is. But I think they got to do a better job. They got to figure out how to have that game at Benedict or in that stadium every year.
What I'll say real quick is that I'm rooting for Allen next year. Like Allen has like I said last week, great coaching. I think the quarterback is great. I think they have a good offense. I wish that they could have seen more success, and they have that game against Edward Waters next week. But we'll see what happens with them. But I really want the best for Allen, and I want them to make it interesting in the East. I think they're going to be a good team moving forward.
Yeah, you got Allen, you got Edward Waters. I think both of those programs could easily come through the cracks and be a surprise for the East. I mean, when you look at Allen head coach and his pedigree, he came from Stillman. I just remember he was recruiting me as a high school kid. So, and he recruited a lot of kids out of our area. So I know that he knows how to get out and recruit. And then when you look at Edward Waters, I mean, they down here in the state of Florida, so I mean, they could easily become something. If the kids buy into it, what they're doing, they could easily become a solid team in the East.
I see that too. I see the exact same thing, and we'll see what happens next week when they play Allen. You know what I'm saying? We'll see who wins that because I think it's going to be a sneaky good game.
It's just too bad it's on championship week, man.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But that's true. But I mean, it's going to be on ESPN as well, so we're gonna watch the replay.
What's up, Mr. Walker? We got Jamie Walker in the house. I seen you come up. Got something to.
What's going on, y'all? How you feeling?
We good? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good, man. I actually called that game yesterday, man. And what I'll tell you is the vibe was actually pretty good, man. It was a late arriving crowd, but they ended up there, man. But I was able to talk to the AD at halftime, and they have some plans for Allen as far as the facilities are concerned. I know originally they were supposed to share that field that Benedict is on, but I think they just kind of want to do their own thing. So I think you'll see them come up, man. They got the backing of the church, and you'll kind of see that school be able to get the facilities they need to actually compete. But just their team, period, man. If you look and follow that game, they had some turnovers early on that could have had that game maybe a little closer than it ended up being. But I think that man, they're an incredibly young team. If you look up and down that roster, man, it's freshmen and sophomores. They were a little bit bigger than I thought they would be. But yeah, they're incredibly young, man. So I think Allen will be all right. Benedict is just that juggernaut right now, man. The size up front, you know what I'm saying? Just everything they're able to do skill position wise. I think the only thing that's wrong with Benedict right now, honestly, is their kicking game. They aren't able to just flourish in that area. Now, the return game is fine, but just their kicking game, man, is iffy right now. That might be the only thing that hurts them in the playoffs. But I think, man, they're a solid group all the way around, man. So I think they'll be just fine.
The Benedict cornerback had a career day, but I feel like if he actually got the shot to play the whole game, I think he could. I think he could do a little bit more than what he did.
For
So,
sure.
I mean, are we ready to talk about Albany versus Fort Valley? We ready?
Yeah, let's go ahead and open up that discussion.
I mean, listen. So I didn't get the chance to go to the game, and honestly hate that I couldn't. But I watched it to the best of my abilities because, like I would say again, the ESPN broadcast was really bad. But the parts that I saw, it was Fort Valley doing what Fort Valley does this year. Like, their offense is dynamic. Like, Emmanuel Wilson and Kevin Durham, like, they are like game changers. Like, Emmanuel Wilson rushed for 200 yards against Albany. And like Albany's rush defense is really good. It's been good the past 2 years. And even though they can't really score all that well, Albany still can lock folks down. So the fact that we scored 31 points, and you look at us in the box score and on paper before the game, Albany was beating us out in those key statistics. I think, and even with rushing, they really contended. They didn't rush for all that much. Like Fort Valley was able to hold them from rushing. They were under 100 yards. So like we needed that win because how they did us last year, and I know why that occurred, and I respect that. But even just in years prior, like we said, 2017 with Shannon, that was their last game because we're just like Benedict this year. Like we beat Morehouse, we were already going to the SIAC championship against Tuskegee in 2017. So our whole entire excuse when we lost was, hey, we ain't really trying. We ain't trying to get injured because we play Tuskegee next week. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I really wish that we could have won against Savannah State and at the very least made it go to the playoffs. And to be honest, and it's fun to say this because I was saying a lot that, hey, like that Albany Benedict game, that's for the SIAC championship. When in actuality, if you really look at it, the Fort Valley Benedict game was for the championship. Because I'm just going to say, if Fort Valley beat Benedict, we were going to the championship. But listen, I'm rooting for Benedict. I'm Team Benedict right now. I'm just saying.
Man, listen. Let me stop you right there because I was in attendance at the Fort Valley game. Man, honestly, I don't know if those kids was partying the night before or what, but they was very. It just seemed like they was out of it. Like it just seemed like they wasn't locked into the game. I expected that game to be a lot closer, but again, Benedict imposed his will on Fort Valley, and I think that it's more of that to come this season. I think we're gonna watch Benedict impose their will on some folks for the next couple weeks.
Yeah,
in the playoffs. In the playoffs, yeah.
Let me just say this about Fort Valley before we move that because it gets the main event. All right. One thing I will say is that I am proud of Coach Gibbs. I'm proud of Fort Valley because this is how you build a strong culture. Because when he was hired, a lot of folks had apprehensions about his hire because it was like you're hiring this guy who was a running back coach at North Carolina A&T. But I think you bringing him in from North Carolina A&T when he coached up Tyreek Cohen, he like you said with Coach Slater, he knows what winning looks like. And I think that he instilled a winning culture within Fort Valley. He has to get the offensive line better. I think he needs to get, some more receivers. He needs to get the defense better because our defensive stats weren't as great as they could have been. But I think that Fort Valley, we back. I think we're back, and it's going to be real cool next year. But, this ain't about Fort Valley. It's about Benedict. All right, so let's move on.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
How? Am I on?
You are. You're on.
Okay. My first time doing this. I want to say this because I know a little inside info on Albany. If you notice, the starting quarterback was out. Top two running backs are out. The number one receiver didn't play. The two starting tackles were out, and they had a flu outbreak a couple of weeks ago where about 30 players missed practice, and they just were not the same team that day. There was no energy. Uh, so there was some things going on going into that game that just had the sense that if things didn't go right or somebody didn't pull things wrong, there are a lot of good teams in the SIAC now, and that's what we really need to talk about. How nationwide they're trying to tend to downplay this conference,
Yes.
but there's a lot of good teams, and you have to be on your game to win here. We've beaten these other conferences, we've beaten those teams, but it just like you have to be perfect, like Benedict was, to get that respect when they look at their schools and it's well, this would have happened, and then you got to go south doing these rematch games, and it's you just have to be ready. And I think it's Benedict's year, and I think that Fort Valley needs to get playoff consideration, even though they're probably going to be dismissed. And then if Tuskegee plays a tough game against Benedict, but comes up short, they're probably going to get pushed out. And I don't think y'all know what I'm saying.
Yeah, Albany State
kinda-
definitely needed that game. Albany State, they definitely needed that game, man.
Yeah.
And, as much as I like rooting for underdogs, obviously the underdogs pulled it out in my eyes.
Yeah, we were
it's
definitely not the
it's
underdogs.
it's I would love to see a bunch of HBCU teams show up in the playoffs this year. Definitely.
Yeah, and what I'll say as well is that what I'll say about Albany, because I like to, because me being HBCU post, I can't be doing the HBCU beat rivalry stuff because I'm for all HBCU. So I
Yes.
turned that card in a while ago. So what I will say about Albany is that even what you're saying with them having that flu outbreak and the quarterback being out and the top running backs being out, they still had it dangerously close. And I tweeted, Fort Valley, don't drop this game. Don't choke this game away like how y'all did last week. Because I saw the signs of it. I saw the signs. And like I turned the game off because I went into Best Buy because I got me some new Mac products to make things happen. You know what I mean? But I came out and I saw the tweet and I saw that man Wilson scored a touchdown. I'm like, yeah, it's over. It's over.
Oh, yeah.
Because you got that
Great.
offense, you go crazy.
Mm-hmm. Love that dude. That day, he carries it. That he's something. He's something. He's special.
Draft consideration. I'm telling you, he's the best running back in the SIAC. Him and Northern Scotland. I'm telling you.
Uh-huh. And they're well coached this year too, man. Not knocking anything else, but that coach is. I like what he was doing out there. Gibbs
Coach
is
Gibbs.
doing a good job.
Can't like build a winning culture. Like he built a winning culture because that's all he saw in North Carolina A&T. So I'm excited to see what he does now that he's got a year under his belt. I'm excited to see what he does next.
Oh yeah. Well, I got to get out of here, guys. It's late. Talk to
Yes,
y'all
sir.
next time.
Yes,
All
sir.
right.
Thank you, man.
Bye.
All right, so I'm off. My thing because we won. We good. Are we ready to talk about Tuskegee versus Benedict side championship heavyweight round main event? We ready to talk about it?
Most definitely. I'll be in the metro area this Saturday.
So what y'all want to start with? Y'all want to start with the tail of the tape? Y'all want to start with the picks? Y'all want to start with the trash talk? Listen, it's y'all show, man. What y'all trying to do, man?
D2, where you at, man? I feel like he done took a break. He done took a nap on the show, man.
Nah, he took a nap.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if he listening or not, but man, I like Benedict by 21.
By 20
Saturday
now, by 21, come on now. By 21?
by 21. I'm not
Why?
playing with you.
Why?
You gotta hey, listen to me. Listen to me. You can watch these games on TV, you can watch these games, but man, when you see it up close, man, like when you actually there and you looking at this stuff, man, it's like, man, all of them kids on the team is locked in. Like, again, it's a lot of, I know they got a lot of spiritual stuff going on in the locker room, which is good for the kids, man, especially, nowadays with all the stuff that they feeding these kids, you know, man, but I'm telling you, man, what they got going on right now, like, man, it's amazing.
I feel it like I know for me as a neutral observer, of course, first being HBCU post, so I don't get into the rivalry stuff. but also just being, from Fort Valley. And I'm honestly rooting for Benedict because I want to see them make school history and have a perfect season. But Tuskegee, they're the blue blood program, so you have to have respect for that. But what I go back to is that Fort Valley game, and I know that was the first game of the season, Red Toes Classic. But when you look at that game, I think that Benedict and Fort Valley are very similar in how they run their offenses because both Benedict and Albany have a dynamic run offense. You have, like I said, Emmanuel Wilson for Fort Valley, who had a great game against Tuskegee. You have Norris Zaire Scotland. Like, can Tuskegee stop that run game? And then can they solve Eric Phoenix, who can do both? So I don't think that Benedict's going to win by 21. I think this is going to be a pretty close game. But I think Benedict's going to win by at least a touchdown or a field goal for sure.
Now I had to step away. I heard y'all, heard everything y'all said, and what really threw me off when Bruh said Benedict by 21. Listen, this ain't Clark that's coming up there.
Oh man,
this ain't Allen that's coming up there.
Hey, then y'all play Allen this year. What was that score?
Listen. That's because they like our little cousin. We're not gonna do Jasher no kind of way. Jasher was the man when he was here. We're not gonna do our little cousin like that. Like we weren't gonna do Slater and Clark like that. But let me say this about that Fort Valley game. Coach Ruffin, from day one, from the very first phone call he put out, his one thing that he was trying to convince people, and I was a little apprehensive of this, and I didn't really think it through. But this is why I don't hop down on coaches a lot. He told us, he said, we have the talent, we just got to mesh. And sitting at homecoming, really realizing that Tuskegee and Miles, man, we really didn't like each other. Like, this rivalry, because I'm old school ski in a sense, where I remember the old rivalry. So when people start making this Miles game a rivalry, I was a little like, late to the party, like accepting as Miles being, I'm used to Miles just being the team that we just beat. But to get guys who played on skiing, who has watched Miles whoop us 3 times straight, now you in the same locker room with these guys. I know it took a minute for this team to gel. And we had our issues at quarterback, because coming into the season, everybody thought it was going to be the transfer from state. Like, that was the talk, that Nettles was going to have the job. So we went through that, and I don't think that Tuskegee had meshed well enough to be a competitive football game when we played Fort Valley. Shout outs to that. I meant now, that's a compliment to Coach Gibbs at coming in. He was the first year head coach there, getting his team there. But I don't think he had the problem that a Tuskegee and Miles has meshing. I'm talking about guys that been in the trenches, because that game always decided who won the Western title. So it was a lot in that game. We swapped coaches. It was a lot that goes into that rivalry. And then now you bringing all that here. I mean, that's even with the coaching staff. It's a blended coaching staff of people who was on Slater's staff and the folks come from Miles' staff, and y'all were just, battling it out, fighting for guys on the recruiting trail. So it just took it a while. When you look at Tuskegee and Kentucky State, how we were able to maintain the run, I'm not really putting too much into that Miles game, because that was something else. That was, we gonna play our best to whoop our old coach and our old players, okay? And then we won on the back of a player that used to wear purple last year, and I'm glad that he was in crimson and gold this year. So it's like one of those things where forget that game.
Hey, he didn't beat Benedict last year.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna say this, D2. I'm gonna say this right now. This is my biggest emphasis on this whole weekend. Y'all played Allen. You see how that turned out. We played Allen. You see how that turned out. Y'all played Clark Atlanta. You see how that turned out. Y'all played Miles College. You see how that turned out. We played Miles College. You see how that turned out. So when I say 21 points, I'm probably being generous, just because I know what the mission is this weekend. is to go 1-0, and it's been to go 1-0 for 10 straight weeks, and this just happens to be week 11, and Tuskegee is on the clock.
Well, wait a minute. Okay, now wait a minute. Let's backtrack. Okay, that Clark game don't count either because that was something else. That was a battle that was outside, that was bigger than all the players playing that game. That was a I'm gonna show you for coming in and taking my job. Because the talk around Slater leaving was that he didn't have offense, that his offense was just so bad. So of course, that man was gonna do them, and them boy, he got those boys up to play for them. So throw that Clark game out. Now, when you talk about that Miles game, please remember now that y'all only scored one offensive touchdown on Miles. Okay, I know that score looks like what is 20, 20-0, 21-0.
How many points did they offense score on us?
I know that score. Okay.
How many points did they offense score on us?
And listen,
and
then y'all didn't get no offensive touchdowns on Lane, right? It was no offensive touchdown. One both of those special teams touchdowns. But anyway, regardless, it's gonna be pick your poison. Now you may have a little success because, like, your offensive line, I don't think that we will be able to consistently get pressure on Phoenix. I just don't. I'm not seeing us winning up front.
Mobile, but the thing is, like, he's not just a stand in the pocket kind of guy. Like, he can run. Like, the kid can really run, man. I'm gonna be honest. I feel like, and again, I'm looking at it from a fan's perspective. Now, I'm not looking at it from a coach's perspective, even though I am a coach. I feel like the coaches ain't really turned that boy loose yet. Like, I really do feel like he could really be, again, when the play, I don't like talking past this week, but, you know, when it's really crunch time and it's playoff time, the coaches turn him loose, man, that dude, telling you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna root for y'all in the playoffs. 10-1 Benedict. Yeah, I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for you. But
who we lose to though?
But also this. Y'all gonna lose to us. That's why you're gonna be 10-1. But I don't think people have looked at how far our offense has come. And a lot of times you look at a game and you look at the Clark game. We just totally got away from running the ball. We were just shooting the ball down the field. We actually, I'm one of the ones that say we actually played Clark into that game. And sometimes you look back over some of our earlier games, we did that. We played teams into games. But when it's time to get grimy, you go back and look at what we did to West Alabama. When it's time to get grimy and play Tuskegee football, because anybody understands the Tuskegee style of football is roughing. Okay. And I'm so glad they kept Powell on the staff. Like, Tuskegee's going to come up there, and I think you're going to be shocked because this is going to be the first time that Clark going to get punched. I mean, not Clark. Benedict is going to get punched in their mouth first because we're going to punch Benedict in their mouth first. Benedict has been punching.
I don't think you understand how good our defense is. Listen, and I don't think you understand. I really don't think you understand. Like, we got some dogs on that. That defense is bad.
Listen, and listen, I've had high praise for your defensive line all season. I got nothing but high praise on the
defensive line. Our linebackers a baller. Hey, listen, our DB is a baller. I'm gonna just say this. When it comes down to this game, again, obviously special teams is gonna play a big factor in this game. It's obviously all three phases of the game. But I think when it comes down to talent, and again, I might be wrong because I only watched one Tuskegee game this year. When it comes down to talent, I think that Benedict offensive line against Tuskegee defensive line, I believe Benedict is gonna move them chains, and I don't believe that Tuskegee offensive line will be able to hold up against Benedict defensive line for 4 quarters. I do not see that because again, it's gonna be one in the trenches, but I feel like Benedict has more talent. That's what I'm gonna say on both fronts.
And I'm gonna say this about Benedict. Benedict has not seen somebody use the tight ends the way we use tight ends. That's gonna be the difference. Like that's still the leftover flavor from Slater is our tight end play. So yes, we're gonna neutralize that defensive line. There's no doubt about it. Like that's just I'm sure that's going to be one of the emphasis this week. We kind of adjusted to that with Miles Saturday because you look at what Miles was doing. I mean, man, it's giving me nightmares just thinking about it. I'm trying to recall his number. Um, Bruh just had a day, and we adjusted to that. I just believe that what's going to end up happening, man, is that depends on what tape you play up Tuskegee. Like you got to watch all Tuskegee tape because Tuskegee will come and our running game will be jumping today. I mean, because I know you talk about the back at Benedict, and I mean he's great. And Wilson, yes,
It's a
guys,
cast of backs
guy,
at Benedict.
guy,
It's not just one.
That's
guy,
true.
guy,
Cast of
guys,
backs.
amazing at Wilson. But we got two of the best backs in the country too. And Edwards, and now Edwards was 1,000-yard rusher last year. He's splitting time with Toro this year, Torian Taylor. And their styles are so different. And I think that gives us another element. Now, our quarterback, he's not the fastest, but he's a scrambler too. I think when you look at all the offenses that Benedict has faced this year, they haven't faced the offense that can run the ball and throw the ball like Ski. Like at Albany State, you go back and watch them when they played the Albany State game. There were some passes that Albany State quarterback just overthrew that could have made that game different. Those passes that we're not gonna miss those passes. So I think this is gonna be, if it's a shootout, we win.
Hey, can I say this real quick? Like, cause I was gonna go to Benedict's website to pull up like the stats, but tell me why they already have Benedict as 10-1, and they put the Allen score in reverse and said Ski gonna win 54-21.
Where you find this information at?
Like it's on Benedict's. I'm putting it in the comments. It's on Benedict's website. Like what the world? Who did that? Y'all gotta find that person to take that down.
I know who did it.
Go tell them a second. It's screenshot. So it's forever X now. That happened.
I'm gonna say this. Hey, Tuskegee defensive line won't be able to play with the Fist Saturday. The Fist is gonna ball out. We're gonna see pancakes on top of pancakes. We're gonna see, man. Listen, it's gonna. I'm telling you, I'm gonna be right there too. D2, hey, I'm telling you, I'm gonna be right there, man. I'm telling you, I'm gonna be right there. I'm driving up. I'm coming up. I gotta see it. This is a must-see game.
I'm getting in town Friday. I wasn't getting in town earlier Friday, but my old high school, they won in the playoffs, so they're hosting the playoff game for the first time in school history. So I gotta go there and support what those guys are doing.
Yeah, I'm coaching the playoffs down here in Florida Friday night. So yeah, I'm gonna hit the road as soon as it's over though. I'm hitting the road.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we definitely got to link up when I get there and see what this we gonna see. Like I look forward to it being a good game. It's gonna be a good crowd because Tuskegee is coming. And I know that Benedict, like that city is bought in. I've been looking at like the attendance in the stands. So I'm like, yeah, okay. That's gonna be good, man. That's gonna be good.
So Deech, my question to you is this: so Benedict has a top defense, and that's one thing that Coach Thomas is saying. So what is Tuskegee gonna do against that top-ranked defense that beat out Fort Valley, beat out Albany, and has been honestly shutting teams out? You know, what's Tuskegee gonna do against that?
Once again, I think it just goes back to what I was saying earlier. Benedict has played some good teams, but they've been one-dimensional team. You talking about teams like Albany State, that's what, like a 73, 74, 75% run team. Teams that don't, like, they do one thing well and they can't do anything else. And Benedict has basically neutralized the one thing that they did well, beat me this way, and they can't. If Benedict is determined to stop the run, okay, to just say Edwards and Taylor is not going to beat us. Basically what Miles said. Miles said, okay, we're going to take that running game away from you. We can pass it. We're efficient. Like, you go back and you look at those numbers are kind of screwed. So when you look at the pass efficiency because of the quarterback change that we had, those numbers are kind of skewed. Just they're off a little bit because of the games that Nettles were playing. But you take the last 7-8 games, so you want to drop back. Now I will give Benedict this. If Benedict can just get pressure with the 4-man up front, the 4-man rush, we'll probably have a long day. But as long as they're not able to like run him out of pocket, I'm okay with that because he's really good on the run. You can look at it to film, he's really good on the run. If we can set edges against Benedict, we're good. We're good. Just my whole thing is like, as long as we don't go back, and I hope we get the ball first, because I think that's been one of the things that I was like, dang, nobody just wants to punch Benedict in the mouth. Like I when y'all jumped out on Albany State like that, because y'all took that ball and drove it down the field on their throats, and I feel like that set the tone for them the entire game. So I hope that our game plan is, hey, if we get a chance to get the ball, let's get the ball first. Let's punch these boys dead in their mouth. They've been the bullies all year. Benedict been coming down, but they been the underdog. It's crazy because they've been the underdog, but they've been the bullies.
Now, two things really quickly. So I just put up the tweet on what they call on Twitter Space the Titantron, where it has that thing, Coach Thomas, where it says that Tuskegee gonna win 54-21.
Yeah, I just hit the person up that put that, man. Don't worry about it. I just hit them up.
Cool.
And they tripping.
Cool. Because you gonna make me look bad. You gonna make me look bad. I'm saying
I appreciate that, man. I just hit the person up, man. Hopefully they get it right now. But I think every history always has an expiration date. Championships, regimes, all of that stuff have expiration date. When it's your time to win, when it's your time to do what you're supposed to do, God gonna give you all the tools to do it. And I believe, you know what I'm saying? I think that, like I say, Saturday, man, it's gonna come down to the trenches. And man, Benedict got some dudes in the trenches. So again, I ain't saying what Tuskegee don't have, and like you say, you a Tuskegee guru. You know everything that they do. You watched them for years. But I just, like I say, man, every tradition, everything has expiration dates. Eventually, everything is meant to be thrown off. And I think this weekend, obviously you posted the records of us versus Tuskegee. Obviously the tradition of Tuskegee program has been going long and strong. But again, our program, we started back up in '98. So, obviously just like what Allen doing right now, they're in the process of trying to build up their program from scratch. So our program have went through all of that. So now again, like I said, it's our time, man. We done took our lumps. It's our time to show the world, man, especially the SIAC, that Benedict is more than capable of getting a win.
So, Coach Thomas, so let's address the Miles College situation. So, D2, he brings up that Miles College game, and looking at the stats, the total rush yards was 82 yards, and Northern Scotland did not have a good game. So, based on that, what is your answer in rebuttal to that as far as that game when it comes to the rushing?
Like I say, man, I would like to see our quarterback utilize his abilities a little bit more in those type of situations. I think because, again, like I said, I don't think that the coaching staff has really turned him loose. And I know that we've been doing this whole 2-quarterback system. Once we get up a certain amount of points, we'll put the other quarterback in. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, as long as it's working. But obviously we getting ready to go to the playoffs, as a fan. Now, I ain't talking as a coach. I'm talking as a fan right now. I think that, it's time to, put one guy in the spot and, ride that coattail. I think all the test runs and stuff like that's over with now. It's crunch time. But again, I think that in those type of situations, we could have got a little bit more read option. I feel like we could have done some stuff in those type of, we could have utilized the quarterback a little bit more
Well,
against a team like Miles.
here's
Huh?
the thing. Here's the thing. What I'm saying, because that game was on HBC League Pass Plus. So if y'all want to go see it, if you're listening, go to HBC League Pass Plus. You'll be able to watch that game on demand. John Lampley played more snaps. He played more snaps than Eric Phoenix. It looks like at least the stats look a little bit better because John
No,
Lampley
he
was
did,
7 for
he
12.
did. But that's what I'm saying. Again, I feel like personally, when you running a 2 quarterback system or you trying to, again, I understand the need to have 2 quarterbacks, but I feel like, again, you got to give your quarterback. At some point you just got to turn the guy loose and let him, utilize his abilities. You know what I'm saying? Again, the man, he's only gonna get older, so next year. I mean, I don't know how. I mean, he probably have 1 or 2 more years of eligibility, but I mean, you need to utilize the player while you have him. Utilize his talents, man. The kid, he can play ball.
I feel it. So let me. So in your opinion, in both y'all's opinion, is the Miles game the barometer? Because I know, for example, Coach Thomas, you said like, hey, like Tuskegee played Allen, look what happened. Hey, you see they played Clark Atlanta, you see what happened. Like, what's the barometer game? Like, what game should we be looking at to say, hey, this is how Benedict is gonna be, this game? And what's the game where we say, hey, this is Tuskegee how they're gonna be? Like, what's those 2 games?
I personally look at all 3 matchups, and I say that, okay, when you look at how both teams matched up against each team, obviously Benedict beat each one of the teams. I mean, no matter how the points got on the board, they got up there. So I think that, again, I think that Benedict is going, I think that they're 21-point favorites just because when you look at the Clark Atlanta game and when you look at the Allen game, you look, I mean, again, like I say, Miles College is who they are. Like he said, that Miles College got a strong defense. Their defense is what it is. But I think that, when you look at these games and you look at these points, I feel like Benedict could run away with this game. I really do.
So just to be clear, so you think for real, like no, not even like just on a fan thing. You really think Benedict is going to beat Tuskegee by 21 points?
No.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think honestly, I'm gonna tell you like this, just because it's a championship game, and I know that everybody's gonna be pumped up and excited to play. People gonna be nervous. Again, obviously Benedict's trying to chase history. Every week they chasing history. I do think that it'll probably be. I think Benedict will probably beat them by 13 points. I think
Okay.
that'll be probably more of a accurate assessment on the matter. But as a fan, I really do think Benedict gonna beat them by 21 or more. As a fan,
I
absolutely.
got you. Okay, like that because just me trying because I always try to be even with my teams. I always try to be objective. Like that's why like I wasn't like saying with my chest, oh, Fort gonna run through Albany because it's like it's Albany. You know what I'm saying? Like Albany's pretty tough. You know what I'm
No,
saying? So
no,
it's
no.
like
Again, obviously Benedict, we chasing history. You know, Tuskegee. This is a game that they very familiar with.
yep.
For us, this is history. This is doing something that's never been done. In program history. Um, obviously, I think that the edge that they're gonna have is those kids ain't gotta travel, so we don't have to travel nowhere.
Yeah, that's true.
We're gonna be staying where we stay. Game day preparation is gonna be the same, so we ain't gotta figure this out. We ain't gotta worry about if this gonna go right or this gonna go wrong. We know how. We're favored in those. That home field advantage is a big deal also.
I feel that.
Especially when you're preparing for a football game. I mean, any athlete can tell you, like, if I'm in my hometown, like, if I'm used to a routine, you know, mentally, I know what's next. So I think that, from that aspect, those guys, they got to drive away from Alabama, and I'm sure they're going to be on buses, which is very uncomfortable because I done drove on them buses. I done took those trips. You get cramped up and all kind of stuff. So again, Benedict don't have to do all of that. They know what game day is like. They know when they wake up in the morning, they know, all right, we got team breakfast. They know that, all right, we got team walkthroughs. They know that, they know what the routine is gonna be like. For Tuskegee, you know, I remember being one of those guys where, you have team breakfast on the road and guys coming in team breakfast 5 minutes late. So again, which that throws off everything. So, again, it's that a lot of that stuff has a lot to do with what's going to take place, Saturday in the game.
So what I will say about home field advantage is this. So before 2017, the SIAC championship was in Alabama and different places where it was on a neutral site. 2017 is when they start doing it, based on whichever champion, like 1 year East champion, other year West champion. That started with Fort Valley, and I was a junior there, and I actually covered it for HBCU polls 4 times on the foundation. And one thing I noticed with Tuskegee, and that might have been Slater's regime, but Coach Ruffin, this type of guy. When Tuskegee came in, they were business, and we were at home. And when you saw Fort Valley, they were sort of smiling and keying, and I don't have a big problem with that. And the game wasn't super crazy because I feel as if we could have won that game. We just didn't capitalize on our opportunities, and we didn't score well. But I feel like home field advantage does matter, and I know that Benedict, especially for history, Benedict is gonna come out because they've seen this team. Like, they know what this means. You have a great coach, great record, great facilities. The fans are gonna come out. But I've seen Tuskegee, even though this is a different team, it's 5 years later. I've seen Tuskegee come in and say, "I don't care nothing about home field advantage. We win," because they did that against Valley 2017. They won the SIAC championship.
Well, I
So that's
mean,
something to think about.
another aspect of that too is, when you look at the whole dynamic again, Benedict got the opportunity to do something that has never been done. Again, this is once in a lifetime opportunity because again, next year you don't know what's going to happen after this.
Yeah.
You can't live off tomorrow. It's all about today. So, again, I think the mindset of the program, the whole 1-0 mindset, the spiritual aspect of the team. I think a lot of that's going to play into, what takes place on Saturday. Again, man, you come in, you walk into Benedict coaching staff, you walk into that office, man, it's like a sanctuary. You think you going to church. I done been there over the summer. Like, I took my son last summer up, to Benedict just to kind of see the campus or whatever we was passing through. And, it's really like that. Like, everything that you see in the media and everything that the coaches talk about, it's really like that on that campus. So I think, again, man, it's going to be a lot of, again, Tuskegee got to take that probably 8, 9, maybe 10, 11, 12-hour trip on the bus. They not flying. And again, you get to sleep right in your bed, to get prepared for the game. So again, everything tells me that Benedict is going to be fully locked in on what's at stake Saturday.
I feel it. So, hey, I'm a designer. Like that's my Fort Valley guy. So he said the only reason I would lean that this game be close is because Coach Ruffin has experience in this game. So I want to ask D2 this if he's on right now. So, like, how do you think Coach Ruffin D2 is gonna like approach this game? Because he knows championships. Miles College, he was winning those championships. Now he's at Tuskegee. Like, how do you think he's gonna approach this game?
He has a one leg up because, like, he brought a lot of players with him from Miles. So these are also players that have been in this game before. We got a few hangovers from the 17th season because of the COVID year that kind of got some guys an extra year. So we have some guys that was at ski. I know, like the Harris guy, he was on the roster when we won the championship the last time Slater won the championship. So you got guys who have been in this game before. Slater's not gonna make this. Not Slater. Ruffin is not gonna make this game too big for them, but he's gonna make it big enough. And they kind of understand. Like, we've kind of been playing the playoffs to the championship game every week. At this point, because it was like win or it's over with for you until this past week with Miles. So I think also a little added. I think Tuskegee wants to, try their hand at the playoffs because we will be excluded from it for the next 3 years. So Tuskegee has a lot to play for. And it's just been there. And I'm pretty sure that Ruffin doesn't want Bear to beat him twice. I mean, because Benedict came down on their homecoming last year. I was having a conversation with a couple more people like, hey, this Benedict crashing homecoming just didn't start this year. Like, you got to go back to last season to really see that Benedict, this ain't no just happenstance that Benedict got here. No, this was hard work and intentional work by Beer and that staff, because they went down and whooped Ruffin, at Miles on homecoming. So I'm pretty sure that's gonna add a little extra, to it. And who wouldn't want to go out on top? This is last year, So I know he wants to go out on top. So I don't know. Hopefully that they can manage that, manage emotions, going into the game, and just play a Tuskegee brand of football. And I mean, Ruffin, he's proven. I mean, he has a track record that he's proven that he can win in this game. And it's just a new opponent now, because normally it's just him and Albany State in this game. So
or Fort Valley, because y'all got us in 2017, or Fort Valley.
Well, I'm saying for him, Fort Valley with us,
you're right.
Yeah, with him, and so like that's big on the East. And I don't know if anybody like I'm always praising schools when they get competitive.
Yeah.
It had gotten so boring on that East. I mean, out of the 11 to 12 years that the SIAC has had this championship game, what they've had 2 years that Albany State didn't go.
Yeah.
It's like, man, my God. Okay,
and both
finally.
years Tuskegee beat us, I believe.
Yeah.
Early 2010s and 2017, yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like, my God, man. I'm glad, and I really hope that they can afford to keep him, because I want Coach Beard there another year, because he's gonna have to try again next year for a championship game. But let next year take care of himself.
Right.
Go ahead.
I want to correct myself, 3 years, because Fort Valley made it out also in 2016, and we won the championship against Kentucky State. So I want to correct myself. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's right. That year at Kentucky State, God, how in the world did we let that happen? Now that was
from my research, that was a legendary coach. I don't know why he couldn't win, but he was a legendary coach. I mean,
You want to know something? It's a video of him where he was talking about Kentucky State, and I was like, why did they hire that dude?
Wait. So there's a video of what was he saying?
So he was talking about why he took the job, and he was just like, I don't know. He had a personality that I just didn't. I didn't vibe with. Now their last head coach that they kind of forced to take another job because they wanted to cut all his money. I liked him. What he was building at, not what they got, because that was a fluke that he got in there that year. Like that was just a pure fluke. You talking about Tuskegee, who was 9-1 in SIAC play.
Block field goal.
A blocked field goal, okay, because of how the divisions were set up. And they went. So it was like, that was a fluke. Like I felt like he was a joke the whole time. Man, just keep Kentucky State. Just, man,
all right. You don't got to talk about Kentucky State. Talk about Fort Valley winning that. But
yeah, that's right. Fort Valley winning that.
Because like I said, I'm keeping the buck. I run HC Pulse, so I'm not in the rivalry thing no more. And then I like Albany State. Albany State showed love. They dominated. You know what I'm saying? Just like how Tuskegee historically has dominated. And I want to say this though, like when Benedict beat Albany, that's when I knew they're winning the SIAC championship. Because like I know that Albany, they've had different stuff, and Albany just felt different this year. But when I saw them score 14 points on that defense, and Albany's defense still was great this year, I was like, no, this is Benedict's year. Because you beat Savannah State, they beat Fort Valley. Savannah State still has talent. You beat Fort Valley, blow them out of homecoming. You beat Albany State, and it was a close game. That's why I'm like, because honestly, to me, and the D2, I know you're gonna feel different, but I think this year, Albany State was better than Tuskegee. You tell me, what do you think?
I hate they lost Saturday, and we could have found out in the playoff, okay. but they didn't. They didn't make it, so they not in the conversation.
You're right.
Forget them.
No, but the reason I'm saying it is because I think The game for me that's like, hey, Benedict's gonna win this is how they beat Albany. Because like I feel like they came out, like you said, oh, you got to go out there and punch Benedict in the mouth. Benedict came out and punched Albany in the mouth because I wasn't expecting that. You know what I'm saying? I was expecting a low scoring game, and you score 14 points and then rushing touchdowns on them. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like that's an indicator to me of what Benedict can do against Tuskegee, especially with Albany State, like you said, Fort Valley, Albany State, Tuskegee, like SIAC Blue Bloods. I feel like that could be what happens on Saturday.
But I think the one component, the one element that people are missing in this matchup is that Benedict has dominated these one-dimensional teams.
Oh,
These teams who do Albany State and their offensive line, until they met Benedict, they could run the ball on just about anybody. They were even able to move the ball running slightly against FAMU. Like FAMU did not
yeah,
hold them for a season low.
right.
So that's a win for Albany State in that run game. But when forced to do something else, they have nothing else in their arsenal to pull out. You may come and swallow up our running game. That's not all we have in the arsenal. And that's how we're able to win these shootouts with these teams, because it's almost like pick your poison. Pick your poison. So whichever one you want to play, it's like, hey, whichever one miles. So folks say, who's going to have a good, I don't know. It depends on what Benedict does. It depends on what they decide to say, hey, let's see if Tuskegee can beat us this way. Because I do believe Benedict can make us one-dimensional, but we're efficient in either way.
Benedict got athletes all over the field. I don't feel like y'all defense. And again, like I said, I'm just being a fan right now. But I don't feel like y'all defense gonna be able to stop that offense, man. I feel like them guys, they chasing history, man. They doing something that, somebody said that it could never be done. But Coach Berry with the chuckle replied that maybe it couldn't, but he wouldn't say so until he tried. It's happening this week.
I know Coach Beard, I've been a proponent of him. When I first heard him speak, I said, God, dog, Benedict really got a good one with this one. Yep. And I think Coach Beard is good for the conference. I honestly believe that. I'm a big SIAC guy. Coach Beard is good for what the energy that he invokes in the conference is needed. And he's able to do that at Benedict. Not knocking, because I respect all HBCUs, but I'm talking about as a program without that real blue blood football tradition.
Yep.
Basketball tradition, yes. Okay. Y'all are the SI, y'all get y'all respect. So he was able to come in and say, hey, we just can't play basketball. We play football. So that's a lot of respect to him. And I know that Coach Ruffin is going to instill in the guys, like, this ain't no play. Benedict ain't for play. Like, when I'm saying about Tuskegee, like, pick your poison, I know this is going to be a fight. Tuskegee is going to have to play the best game that they've played all season.
D2, let me ask you a question. How far you is from Benedict College? If you put it in your maps right now, how far are you? Because you in Tuskegee, right? That's where you located?
I'm in Montgomery. It's about 5 hours, about 5.5 hours.
So Tuskegee is a 5-hour trip from Columbia?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it might have been. I know. Well, Miles College must be a little bit further, because I remember back when we played Miles, it took us a while to get there.
Yeah, Miles is like an hour and a half from Tuskegee. An hour, on the bus, 2 hours probably.
Okay, because I'm factoring in that bus ride, all of that.
We probably coming up early Thursday.
Yeah,
true.
True, that is true.
Don't get me wrong. I know what time. I know the travel time. Like, what I'm saying is, all of that's factored into, preparation. That's what I'm saying.
Now, granted, let me talk through how it went in 2017. How I think it goes still now. Even now we have Holloman that's in. So I remember Tuskegee came in. They came in that Friday, and they had a press conference in our student center. Both of them came in. Then they had practice. I think they stayed in a hotel, because Fort Valley, of course, small town. Hotels ain't that good in Fort Valley. So they stayed in like Warner Robins or Byron. So they got to campus, they practiced, Fort Valley practice. Then it was about time for the game around the afternoon. That's when things got down. So to that point, it is home, Coach Thomas. Like Benedict is at home, but Tuskegee is going to get. There's not going to be like a super long bus ride that day. They getting in like an hour before the game. They gonna already be there.
Now listen, this this not Ruffins talk, okay? This is back in Slater talk in previous time. They used to call Tuskegee the Road Warriors because coaches have been under the impression that Tuskegee plays better on the road than they do at home. You look at some of those losses that we suffered during the Slater era, we suffered the most losses at home. Like we didn't get beat on the road, so he had this little nickname. Of course, this is a different team now. But I'm pretty sure like going on the road, cause we went on the road to West Georgia. Like we went on the road to Kentucky State, went on the road to Lane. So that mentality, Ruffin is gonna have Tuskegee ready to play. They're gonna have to play a damn good game, but we're gonna be ready, and it's gonna be a good game. And I just I want it to be. I hope it sells out. There's no reason that it shouldn't.
Hey, let me ask this. So, like you're right. If you look at it, Tuskegee's 4-1 away this year, but they only had 2 home games.
It's because we play so many classics. Okay, so you take like the Red Tail Classic. That's Montgomery. That's like a home game for us. Okay. The Morehouse Classic, Birmingham. Yeah, hour and a half drive. It's like those games takes away from our ability to have home games. Now, like next year we'll have more because we're on the road so much this year. So like Lane and Kentucky State, they'll come to us. Whoever is in our rotation. I'm not sure if Clark is in our rotation for next season. But before I say that, because they are talking about that 8-game schedule. So
yeah,
who knows how the schedule gonna look next year.
That's true. But I mean, you are right though. I mean, because you look at it, 4-1. You played more road games than home games. You're 2-0 at home, but you're 4-1 on the road. So I mean, the Road Warriors thing does hold up even for this year.
So just man, what I want to say about this season as a whole, the SIAC as a whole, I'm really proud in some of these institutions and going out and hiring quality coaches, man.
Yeah.
I listen, that has been the best thing ever for us to go and basically break even with the GSC, supposedly the SEC of D2.
Yeah.
To break even with them this season, that's huge. That's the reason why there are 3 HBCUs that could possibly get 3 SIAC schools that could possibly get into the playoffs. This like going and winning those out of conference games, man. And it was on the fact that they have hired quality coaches. And that's just one of the things that I praise the individual schools for. If we can just get Morehouse to wake up and do something, like I hate non-competitive Morehouse. I think it's bad for the conference. I think that with their brand, if they played a better brand of football, the conference as a whole could be better.
And a lot of SWAC fans, because I see Yard Talk is in here, and I know she's in the space and she hears this often. A lot of SWAC fans want Morehouse in the SWAC because they want in Atlanta schools. So Morehouse, especially when it's at its best, is a desired school, just how Tuskegee's desired. So I totally get it. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like this year was historic. Like just the play of the SIAC East teams, the great shootouts that the SIAC West had, and the fact that we honestly didn't know who was going to be who until the end of the season. You know what I'm saying? And then even in the East, Benedict ran through, but he was like, hey, like Albany's coming up, Fort Valley's coming up. What's going to happen? This is honestly probably one of the best SIAC seasons of all time, to me. I know I'm young, came out 2019. I didn't see those old years. I'm still catching on my history, but the storylines were amazing this year.
Listen, we got Yard talking here, and we got my man that be repping on Clark of it. Either one of y'all want to jump on and say something? Because I really want my man to come up here and rep something for Clark. and I really want to hear Yard talk. Like,
We got to hear Yard talk. She is
yeah,
goaded. She's goaded.
okay, okay.
And
her,
invite her. She got to come in and just impart some wisdom. I love her.
yeah, her Madness Mondays, man, Swat Madness Mondays always has me cracking up.
Yeah,
Hey,
shout out to you. Shout out to you, Yard Talk. I mean, I definitely be in a lot of y'all spaces and
yeah.
listen to y'all. So, man, shout out to y'all. Appreciate you coming through.
And I will say this, like I ain't told anybody this, but I will say this here, and I know this is being recorded on post, but it don't matter. Like when I was looking at getting HBCU post for HBCU League Pass Plus, like I was really looking into it. I saw Roland Martin was a part of it. I saw the Allscript was a part of League Pass Urban Edge. But when I saw how Yard Talk was promoting Urban Edge and HBCU League Pass Plus, I was like, you know what? I think they are. And then I was like, let's do it because like you're so great at just promoting the streams, HBCUs, and all of them, especially Grambling. You know what I'm saying? But like honestly, Yard Talk made me like, you know what? Let me see what's going on with HBCU League Pass Plus, and that was a great decision. Is all I'll say. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to you. It was a great decision. It was a great decision.
Hey y'all, thanks for inviting me up. I'm just here to learn. I'm just here to learn. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. I just have been just so amazed. I've watched a lot more D2 games this year, and I mean, what I've seen has just been just so eye opening. Just so much talent. I mean, it's just been crazy. I can't even, I find myself like every week making sure that I don't miss like the key games, and, I'm following the storylines, like you said, and I'm just learning about, just the culture on the level. And I have just enjoyed myself this season. So, I hope that, because I stay in Houston, so I mean, none of y'all schools are really close to me, but I hope
At all.
no, at all. Yeah, because I've looked. Trust me, I was looking, especially when Grambling had our bye week. I was like, let me see what I can try to squeeze in, and so hopefully, I know you were mentioning the playoffs, so I'll be learning about, because SWAC doesn't go to the playoffs, SIAC either, so I haven't really been tuned into that over the years, but I'm looking forward to just, like I said, learning more and just getting outside my box, because there's a lot of great football played at the D2 level, and I'm just excited that you guys would just allow me to just be in your circles. And I appreciate y'all for all, like, people tag me, and I mean, I don't mind, because the more exposure that we can get to schools, the better. Kids 2023, they up, and I don't think that, I know they're looking at SWAC MEAC, but are they looking at CIAA and CIAC? And even we got Florida Memorial, NAIA.
Yep.
So it's like,
Yep.
and they're doing big things.
And Langston as well.
Oh yeah, of course. See, I be forgetting. It's I'm getting out of the strictly D1 mode, right? This is my learning curve, and just, it's like every time I learn something new, I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this beautiful campus. Oh, y'all got it going on. It's just
No, I got you.
And I'm like, oh, let me go find the coach. Let me follow them. Oh, they doing this. And it's just been information overload, but I'm loving every bit of it. So if y'all ain't following the coaches and stuff, y'all go follow them. I got all y'all notifications turned on. That's how I be getting it so fast. And shared it. So I just want to do my part to help any way I can.
So let me ask you this. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Coach Tom. Go ahead.
Okay, hey, Yard Talk. Nah, I'm on the same page as you. I'm down here in Central Florida. A lot of the kids from my area, they follow me on like Twitter and stuff. So what I like to do is, I strictly repost Benedict college stuff, because again, I remember back when I was a kid, like I didn't know nothing about Benedict. So I always make it my point that anytime Benedict, I don't care what it is, somebody could have just jumped out of an airplane. As long as it say Benedict on it, I make sure I repost it just so that they can get that exposure
Hey,
to it.
listen. True story, y'all. Like one day, I don't know if it's because I like come in and say, y'all doing a good job or whatever, but they started tagging me and I'm like, shoot, let's go, let's get it. Hey, so I'm with you, coach. Everything they post, I don't care what it is, I'm reposting it. I'm coming, because like I said, great football at that going on at Benedict and at in the SIAC, and so I'm with you on that. They don't know. They have no clue.
So let me ask you this, y'all talk. So, like, do you think that the D2 schools, especially the SIAC, do you think that we're starting to get more respect in SWAC in BX circles, especially the SWAC? Because I just feel like especially when you'll see like FAMU play Albany State or
Mhm.
FAMU play Fort Valley or Pine Bluff, of course, played Lane and Lane played them tough. It's like, oh well, it's a D2 school, they should win. Like, do you see that after this season, what Benedict has done and Fort Valley and Albany State and Tuskegee? Like, do you see the SWAC circles respecting the SIAC more?
Oh, absolutely. Who? I have literally said to myself, man, if Benedict played such and such, I don't know who gonna win, including. I ain't gonna say who school, but
we know what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? Like so start with a G and end with a G. I got it.
So especially earlier in the season, I was like, oh no. Because, man, them running back at Benedict, my goodness.
Hey, give us Pine Bluff, give us Tennessee State. We'll take it. Hey.
Tennessee State? Tennessee State. Okay.
Well, they just lost the lane, so hey, I mean.
I see the vision. I do see the vision, though.
Give us any of them 1-win schools down there, man. I love us.
Hey, listen, just like how things are different because of COVID and it really just made, us have more access to kids because it's more competitive now. That's helped the D1 HBCUs and the Division II HBCUs.
So I want to ask you this too. There's like one last question for me. Like, as far as the media side, that's one thing you always really are talking about. How do you view the SIAC from that media standpoint? Because League Pass, I think we had 6 or 7 Benedict games. The ESPN had the others, and of course we have the games that were being streamed, on ESPN Plus. So how do you see that broadcast and promotion side for the SIAC, looking at it from a SWAC perspective?
Okay, what do you mean? Like, are you saying
so like you've seen it at the height. You've seen that, for example, you've seen Jackson State and what Deion Sanders is doing. And you've seen that diversification with HBCU go, they got the SWAC games locked down. There was a dissension about ESPN and when HBCU go was doing it, then League Pass getting in the fray. Like, for me, I feel like it was a jump that happened because when I was at Fort Valley, it was so many great games in football and in basketball. No one talked about, no one saw them. The only way you even know about them is because of HBCU game day. Now what I see just from the inside is that Benedict is getting love. Fort Valley is getting love from local media and national media. You see Albany State is getting love. You know what I'm saying? So like, from your standpoint, just because the SWAC always gets love. It always got love. So, like, do you see us getting better in that lane from looking at it from your vantage point, being a Grambling graduate?
Yes, I do, and I have to be honest, y'all. My favorite SAIC school is Benedict, so I'm
okay.
I ain't gonna post there, but I'm
okay.
But and so just thinking about what I've seen them do, I think the media part plays a big deal in it because when people know they have access to the games, we're able to have conversations on social media and stuff, and we're talking about it, and there's this big build up, and more people are even more involved now because, okay, they're like, I have more options versus watching it on YouTube and it's a boo-boo feed, or oh man, I can't make it to the game. So it's like it's out of sight, out of mind. And I think that we're with all of the streaming that they've been doing this year, and the production has been amazing, like better than a lot of SWAT games I've watched. Let's be
Yes or no, right?
because
Yeah,
we get
you're
on here.
right.
We get on here every week and complain about how terrible the broadcast is for some of our summer games.
Yep.
So let's not front. But the Benedict games that I've been watching have been just elite production. And that makes you want to watch, see, okay, let me go check and see who they're playing next week. Let me see this. Let me see that. Oh, let me learn about the players. It just keeps you now that we have access to it, to wrap up what I'm saying. It's like you have that build up. It used to be just, to me, just a few of us maybe in a Facebook group and stuff like that. But now we know we can turn on, and it's free.
Yep.
Hey, for a second, while we got Chris on, we already talked about this earlier, but I want to get Chris. He's the CIAA guru. He's the D2 playoff guru. I want to ask him, what does Fort Valley State need to be doing right now?
Let me know, right? Because Fort Valley alum, let me know what's up. What we need, what we got to do. Let me know.
Well, good evening, everybody. I just got off of our show for D2 football, and I saw that this was still going on, and I was so happy. So, thank you for hosting this, and I'm glad to be able to participate. So I guess a couple of things here. So, we kind of have a prediction on where we think the rankings are going to be when they're released tomorrow. And Fort Valley is kind of sitting on that 6 line right now. It's kind of hard to predict because there's so many moving parts. But in my opinion, I think that Fort Valley, who, by the way, was not ranked, regionally ranked last week, and kind of just jumped up into that 6 slot. I think they're probably the most vulnerable team here because of the fact that they are sitting at 2 losses, and they're kind of surrounded by other teams that have 1 loss, whether it's Virginia Union. Wingate has 2 losses, and they got to play a pretty tough team coming up pretty soon. Mars Hill is sitting projected at number 8, and they have 1 loss going into the South Atlantic Championship game. So, and then you got Tuskegee, who has a loss in Division II, and is playing Benedict, and if they win, there's a good chance that they could certainly leap before Valley. So, I've always had an issue with both HBCU conferences in Division II only scheduling 10 games, and so to me, I think that maybe they should schedule an 11th game. That's the first thing that kind of comes to mind is to schedule, a over 500 team that can strengthen their resume, and get them to where, they could sort of withstand, one of these other schools that could certainly threaten them, whether it's a Newberry, who is going, and Mars Hill playing each other, and Newberry already has 2 losses, and they're outside of the top 8 right now, or Mars Hill or Tuskegee, who, if they win, there's just so many variables that could knock Fort Valley out that I think the easiest thing for me to say is they need to schedule an 11th game.
I'm so undecided on it. But I just really don't want them to scramble and then something bad happens. That's honestly what I don't want to see. As far as like trying to schedule a game just to get in the playoffs. I mean, we had a great season. If we didn't make the playoffs, I mean, it is what it is. You just retool and you go back and win. And then you have to look at it like this. It's like we should have beat Savannah State. Had we beaten Savannah State, then we beat Albany. We're not having this conversation. We're talking about, hey, is Fort Valley going to do well in the playoffs? But we left that game to the referees, and and I'll say this publicly in the space, like I was saying about the catch. Like it was a catch, it was a touchdown. It wasn't a touchdown. Like he did lose control of the ball when he went down, so it wasn't a touchdown, and it goes back to us not kicking the field goal. You know, if we kick that field goal, it's a field goal game, 28-27, and then we drive down the field, kick a field goal, and win. Now it's a different conversation. So I mean, if we don't make the playoffs, I'm not gonna cry about it. I'm not gonna be hurt because I think we had an amazing season and we've had the best team since I've been a part of this amazing Fort Valley community, and we can only get better. But if we can make it, I would love to see it. I just don't want a disaster to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just need one. You need Tuskegee to lose. I mean, because that strengthens the case for Fort Valley being, the second SIAC team in the bracket. Um, but at the same time, Tuskegee beat Fort Valley, right? Or am I thinking about that wrong?
No. Fort Valley beat Tuskegee.
Right. So I mean, it kind of hurts Fort Valley's strength of schedule a little bit if Tuskegee were to lose. But at the same time, it kind of neutralizes out because then Benedict's 11-0. So I mean, it's kind of like win or lose, you really need Tuskegee to lose in order for Fort Valley to look a little better to stay in that top seven. That's kind of one of the byproducts of all this happening, the way it's set up right now.
So Coach Thomas, I'm starting to think 21 points too. I'm starting to get on your side a little bit, Coach Thomas. Now playing.
Hey, listen. It won't be 21 points. It'll be probably 13 or something like that. But again, you just can't sleep on this Benedict team, man. We might be the best in region too. We might be the best in the nation. Hey, Chris, make sure you hit that follow button, Chris.
Absolutely. It's been fun to watch Benedict. The little bit I've had to watch them, and the different ways that they can beat you, and being able to promote them on a nationwide scale. And with Benedict being the only team that's undefeated, they're in a great position to get the 1 seed and get the bye. I mean, that's a huge thing because when Division II changed up the playoff format, and went to a 7-team playoff for the regional schedule, only the 1 seed gets the bye now. And last year we were kind of talking about Bowie State getting the bye, and Valdosta lost, and Valdosta's strength of schedule was so good that they still gave the bye to them. But this year, the Gulf South doesn't have that strength of schedule advantage, and because of that, Benedict, if they win this game, they're likely going to get that bye now, and that's huge.
I see we got Edward Waters, president in the space, man. Would you like a mic?
Oh wow, that's amazing. Shout out to Edward Waters. I got like we said before, I'm really looking for Edward Waters to be a contender in the SIAC really soon, especially that Florida pipeline with all the great players that come from Florida. I'm definitely looking for them to be scary.
Hey y'all, this is Kojo. Can I jump in real quick?
Go ahead.
Hey man, just to share, I just want to give a little background and not too shine, too much. I played back in the late 80s, early 90s at Clark, and I got to tell you, man, I've always believed the SIAC has always had good ball. And when I would come back home, I live in Ohio, originally from North Carolina, born in Columbia. So I go to both places. So I still, give shout outs to Shaw, St. Aug, to Benedict. My dad, who just passed away in Columbia, never gave me any slack. It was always Benedict over Clark, even though I was playing for him. But going back to Shannon Sharp and Barry Wagner and Ben Coates and these cats back in the day, when people say that the SIAC is just getting there, man, we've always had good ball, and the technology and access right now makes it really exciting. This is the only plug I make. My daughter graduated from Clark last year. She works at ESPN on the virtual app side. So all the ESPN Plus programming you see and that's pulled from these feeds, it's her that does that. So I'm excited, man, and I like this space because as Sister Yartalk said, we ain't had this space for a while. I was on the Onedin board for a little bit and got to chop it up with some folks there. So this is dope. And that's just my 2 cents here. Just I'm glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, this
I
is
want
week
to.
3. This is week 3 for us, man. We
Yeah,
going strong. We trying to build it up.
Yeah.
I want to say this as
Y'all
well.
missed the first one.
I want to say as well because you brought up Honor Dan. Rest in peace to Mr. Eric Moore, the founder of
Absolutely.
Honor Dan. He passed away, pioneer, and he
Absolutely.
really a game changer. Because I feel like to a certain point, and we've been saying this all week, we're not here on this space if it's not for him, because he's the one that helped in bring HBCU sports to that digital age. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So like rest in peace to him.
And you talk about the president from Edward Ward, his brother. I'll step aside here in a second, but I would tell you one of the neat contacts in this community we have with each other. We're all connected. But brother Daryl McNeil used to be one of the coaches down at Savannah State and became the Clark coach and passed away a few years ago. But I know he was on the board one day and on it, and my son was playing for him. My son was being a knucklehead at Clark, and he just said something slick. Didn't know it was coach. They said, "Wait a minute, who is this cat here?" I think this dude knows me, and we ended up talking. And Coach McNeil was actually the offensive coordinator when Shannon Sharp and Brown, they were number 2 and number 3 out there, and the big running back Basil. I can't think of Basil's name, but the quarterback. But so it's kind of a small world, and so this is a community we can all support. Like I said, by even having the president of the university here, it's a small world that we can get. You're not going to get the president from Ohio State jumping on these places here. Ain't going to do it. So with that, I defer.
Hey, I love it. That's the brilliance of HBCUs. You know what I'm saying? Because we're so community oriented, and our leaders are a part of that community. So I love it.
And Waters had a big win this weekend.
Yeah, we did. Shouts out. I appreciate Mr. D2 HBCU football for creating this space. We're excited about our program at Edward Waters, and I'm a long time supporter of the SIAC as an Albany State graduate, and of course worked at your alma mater for a time at Tuskegee. And I'm just happy to see this space. So often I'm on Twitter and I see SWAC spaces and MEAC spaces, so I'm glad the SIAC has this space, and I can just kind of listen in and kind of hear about some of the different perspectives that on all our programs in the conference. So you all keep doing the great work that you're doing and bringing this needed attention to our conference. I mean, we've got great institutions in our conference, and certainly here at Edward Waters, we are excited to be a part of the conference now as part of. It just made a lot of sense for us a couple of years ago, being in the GCAC and being the only football program in that conference. We had many great years in that conference, but we were excited to be able to have an opportunity to now be a part of the SIAC, and looking forward to great things from our program as we move forward. So appreciate this opportunity and appreciate the space, and y'all keep doing what you're doing. This is super dope, and I'm hoping that it'll grow as more folks learn about this SIAC football talk space.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. And as Albany State graduate, that's amazing. Like I love to see Fort Valley, Albany State, Savannah State graduates really making a change in the world and making it happen. That's very motivating. So I appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
Prez, do you have time for any questions?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. We hear a lot about moving conference to conference, and Edward Waters is actually one of those schools who have done it recently. So, as much as you can tell, what was the process?
I'm sorry, I lost the last part of your question.
I was just asking. We hear a lot about schools moving conferences and stuff, and that's something that you guys actually did. So, can you kind of just tell us briefly what you can, what that process is like when you move from the GCAC to the
Sure. So for us, and I'll just be real honest. I think I had some bias being a graduate of an institution that's in the SIAC. Like I said, being an Albany State graduate, and I'm from Atlanta, so grew up in the Atlanta area with Morehouse, of course, and Clark, and at that time Morris Brown. So I had some familiarity with the conference. Also, working for a time at Tuskegee. And so, when I came to Edward Waters back in 2018, part of the thought process was trying to do all that we could to expand our brand. And I kid my provost all the time. I say, it's true, at Edward Waters, we We have a great business administration program, great communications program, a long history in our biology and some of our STEM programs. But, the average, demographic of student that we serve, 18, 19, they want to know, man, what's the football team doing? What's the band doing? What's popping from that perspective? So, from my vantage point, we really were not leveraging what I felt we could leverage from an athletic perspective, and us being right here in the footprint of the SIAC. We're in the state of Florida, which, anyone that knows anything about Florida, I mean, athletics is huge here and football is king in Florida. I mean, probably per capita, other than, California, Texas, maybe, and Georgia's kind of emerged. But, you got more D1 student athletes, or just student athletes that are coming from, going on to play collegiate sports, coming from Florida than perhaps any place. And so, we talked to our board and our community stakeholders and said, hey, it makes a lot of sense for us to look at potentially making that move from NAIA to NCAA Division II. So we kind of commissioned a study and looked at, we're in the GCAC. Most of those schools are all the way out in Louisiana, Arkansas. We were spending more money going there when we've got, multiple schools that are within a 5-hour radius of Jacksonville that are in the SIAC. And again, I mentioned earlier, we're the only football program in the GCAC. And so we were playing a lot of predominantly white institutions that nobody had ever heard of. Your Ave Maria's, your Saint Augustus of the third, quadrant of Mississippi. And so, there was no excitement for our fan base, for our alumni, for our community. So again, it just made a lot of sense from a lot of different perspectives. And, a lot of times people think about cost being prohibitive, but we kind of looked at it from a different perspective. We felt that, and it's been proven, that our revenues would actually increase significantly by joining the SIAC and playing other HBCUs, particularly in football, basketball, all of our sports. We could cut down on travel, as I mentioned earlier. So, it really was just about, kind of doing our due diligence and putting those pieces together to sell it to our board of trustees, and they bought in to it. And so, we actually engaged a consultant, an NCAA consultant that actually had worked with a number of different other institutions around the country and making the move from NAIA to NCAA Division II. And this consultant had a 100% success rate. Our board raised the money and put the money up for us to engage that consultant, and we began our process. And fortunately, we've been successful. We're now in our second year of the 3-year provisional process. And so it's been great, for our community. We've seen, the interest in athletics, skyrocket. Our enrollment's increased by almost 30%. Since 2019, we're probably the fastest growing institution in the conference at this point. And we think it's largely due to, a lot of the progress that we've made from an athletic perspective, because again, athletics is just a huge opportunity for us here in Florida, because now we're Florida's only NCAA Division II HBCU. So there are a lot of eyes that formerly weren't on Edward Waters that are now. So, I could go on and on, but that kind of was the thinking behind it and kind of the process. And it's been proven to really be demonstrably successful for us.
President, I see y'all got a new stadium, man. Talk to us a little bit about that and what that process was like.
Absolutely. That's been huge for us. So really back in 2017, my predecessor, Nathaniel Glover, brokered a deal with the city of Jacksonville to help fund that. So I have to give credit where credit is due there. When I came on in 2018, though, we hadn't done anything with it. The stadium had not been built, although that announcement that we had a partnership with the stadium, with the city to build the stadium had taken place about a year prior. So what we ended up finding out, and I'm a lawyer by trade. They had done this big deal, and it was like this 300-page document, and folks were like, "Well, where are we with the stadium? Why is the stadium getting built?" Only to find out it was a reimbursement deal, to where the institution had to put the capital up front, and then the city would reimburse us. Well, I mean, it was the total project was about $10 million. We didn't have $10 million in cash. If we had that, we could have built it ourselves. So we had to lobby our mayor and our city council to restructure the deal such that they would put the money up and keep us out of it from a financial perspective and build the stadium for us. And so we lobbied city council, and we had actually had the help of the president of the city council, is a Edward Waters alumnus, Samuel Newby, who was very instrumental in working with our mayor, who's been a huge supporter of Edward Waters, to actually get the stadium built and have the city to pay for it directly. So we were successful in that regard. It's a beautiful stadium. If you all have not seen it, being a graduate of Albany State, one of the institutions within the conference, I can truly say our stadium, although it's not the largest, it's probably one of the nicest facilities in the conference. Beautiful turf field, great urban environment, 2 sides, so you can have your bands there and the whole nine. It's got a president suite box area. I mean, it is really, really a top-notch facility. And so, that it's done wonders for our campus, for our community, for Jacksonville. Again, it's all about leveraging those opportunities. We're the only collegiate football program in the city. We have the University of North Florida, which is here, which is a Division I, Jacksonville University, which is also D1, but neither one of those institutions have college football. And of course, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars in our city. And so we're the only, again, collegiate football program. And now we have our own stadium. So there's just a lot of excitement, a lot of synergy around our football program in particular. I mean, I would say every game, we got Jaguar players out here. We've built a lot of relationships between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the institution. Just yesterday, we had a Raiders player out here. They were in town. He's an HBCU grad. And often when they play the Jaguars, they're like, okay, well, what's going on around the city? They come out to our games. So again, it really has been a boom for us. It's been an exciting development, for us to have the stadium on campus. We also just did a significant renovation on our arena on campus. I don't know how many of y'all have seen our arena floor, and I'll brag. I think we got the best Division II HBCU arena next to maybe Virginia State's Cathedral. If you ever seen their facility, it looks like a pro arena. But second to that one, I put our arena and our floor. We just installed a 16-foot video board in there. I mean, I put our arena up to anyone else in the conference, and certainly in any other HBCU in Division II. So, again, our philosophy is that athletics is really the proverbial front door to our institution. And so we're really utilizing athletics to really help brand our institution and help us grow enrollment, because as a private HBCU, enrollment is everything for us. So it's been a process, but it's been one that, again, has yielded some really, really great results for us as an institution.
Appreciate your time.
It's really refreshing hearing your president say about athletics. So I thank you for giving us that insight. And I do share Edward Water stuff already. So if there's anything that I can do to help support and anything I can do, just please let me know. But I do already share y'all stuff, and I appreciate everything that you're doing.
Much appreciated. I appreciate you all. And shouts out to my women's volleyball team. We just got our first SIAC Eastern Division Championship for women's volleyball. So we're looking forward to the tournament, and hopefully we'll be able to bring home our first conference championship in the sport. So excited about that.
That's good. Hey, I see Tyler King. I see he was running wild Saturday down there.
Oh,
He's
man.
from Polk County, Florida.
Yeah, man, that guy's something else. He's a beast. He's a beast, man. We got a great backfield with him and Hougini, Deshaun Huey. Great backfield. Great couple of backs there, and we're hoping to close out our season strong against Allen. It's our third annual AME Classic, which is a huge classic for us because it brings all the AMEs to campus. They've already purchased about 2,500 tickets that are coming from South Carolina. So we're excited about that, and hopefully we'll close out our season with the win.
Man,
Massive.
appreciate your time. Appreciate your time. I'm always amazed at the job that you're doing down at Edward Waters because you talk about a few years ago, you came in and that vision, man, and it's manifesting and it's manifesting with the types of hires that you're making on that coaching staff. And then the new AD that you just bought in, I haven't formally introduced myself to her, but I did follow her on Twitter. Um, so y'all are doing big things down there, and and not just on the athletic front, like as an institution, you guys are really just becoming Edward Waters University is a big accomplishment of university. So shout outs to you and everything that you have going on down there. And I
We
wish you the best.
we appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Again, it's a team effort. You get everyone pulling in the same direction. You can really make a lot of things happen. But certainly, my time at Tuskegee certainly was instructive for me. Being at a CIAA institution, I served at Virginia Union for a time as a vice president, and I've been to the SWAC at Mississippi Valley. So, all those experiences, I think, combined to help us to, get things moving in the right direction. So we're excited. We're excited, and Edward Waters is certainly on the move. And again, we're really, really fortunate and pleased to be a part of the SIAC. So I appreciate what you all are doing and keep up the great work. Again, anything that we can do to showcase our conference and our institutions, I'm all for it. I'm gonna try to see if I can get some of my other sister and brother presidents to follow this, and maybe they can come on and talk about some of their programs as well. So please keep up the great work.
Thank you, President. I know my man Flicks. What's going on?
Yes, sir. What's going on, panel? This is pretty dope, man. I get to check in and tap in with you guys like once a week and listen. I'm actually doing some recruiting rankings right now, but I'm glad I had a chance to hop in here with y'all. Um, oh man, CEO Edward Waters, you've done such a great job with this school and the football program. Just to think you guys were playing Jackson State and Deion Sanders' inaugural season, all the way rolling down to the Big Cat Classic this year, where you guys go and beat Florida Memorial. Salute to you guys as a school and also as a football program. I think a lot of schools, well, at least some schools, don't take their football program as serious as they need to, and don't use it as a recruiting pitch like you guys can now. And salute to you guys for sure. I really wanted to get into some SIAC championship talk. To keep it real, D2.
Let's talk about it.
We've been talking about it, man, but I want
Let's do
to
it.
ask you, like, so what do you
Yeah.
think is gonna happen? What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I think Benedict and Tuskegee are probably. I think the SIAC, first off, is probably a super talented Division II conference, and I really think it's so deep. But Tuskegee and Benedict have really shown they can win on offense, defense, special teams. You know what I mean? Benedict definitely. D2 you brought it up earlier. Benedict has won a couple of games off special teams and defense alone. Tuskegee, they've had their problems on offense, some problems on defense, for them big shootouts. But I really feel like Benedict, everything's going Benedict's way. I want to see what Eric Phoenix does with a full game. And I really am interested to see how Tuskegee plays Dante Edwards at running back. He was a catalyst for him this past week, especially in overtime. So I think it's going to be a great game, but I think Benedict pulls it out, though. I'm on Benedict.
Man, one of the things I've been saying, I'm so glad that number 3 Edwards is in crimson and gold this year, because had he been in purple and gold, we would have lost that game. He really bailed us out, and that's just the thing about ski. It's the fight that they've shown. Like, it's teams that have had us down, and we find ways to win. I'll go back to my one point that I've been making the whole night about the Benedict matchup. The thing that gives me hope is the fact that Benedict has dominated a bunch of one-dimensional teams that do one thing well. So now we're gonna see, can they the complete package, because Albany State, they run the ball well, throwing the ball, it's here and there. Lane, they can throw the ball well, they can't run the ball. They handle Lane. So now the different contrasts. And so, like I tell people, go back. You got to watch all ski games, even if you want to watch that first game of Fort Valley. I don't care. You can watch it, but that is not the same team from that game, and we're better. Like we have meshed. Is it gonna be a dog fight? Yes, because Benedict is the real deal. They are the real deal. And it's gonna have to be one of those games where Tuskegee plays a perfect game. But I just got Skegee in this one.
Oh,
I mean, you would not have Skiggy, I mean, that's the only thing. But I get it, but you would not have him. I feel it.
Let me tell you, there's one time that I went against Skegee. I got ate up for it, but I went against Skegee. It was the last time we played Albany State, and
Okay,
everybody was down. That was the last time I went against Skegee. I ain't going against Skegee this time. Just not gonna happen.
I get it. I get like I said, as a neutral observer for the folks that came in, we got a lot of folks who's listening in. I think it's going to be an amazing game. I think it's going to be a definite SIAC D2 classic. I think Benedict wins by either a touchdown or a field goal. The defense is too crazy. Eric Phoenix is a dynamic quarterback. I
Benedict
think
by
more.
21.
He thinks 21. I think by a touchdown or a field goal because Tuskegee has that championship pedigree, that championship DNA, the championship swagger. But Benedict is going to make history, and they got Eric Phoenix, Northern Scotland, all those amazing running backs, and a stout defense. I just don't think Tuskegee is going to be able to score on them, even in passes. I just don't see it.
Let me tell you something. Making Skegee the underdog is what's gonna mess Benedict up in this game. Okay, that's what's gonna mess Benedict up in this game. Because like you were saying earlier, everybody in the season was saying that hey, that Albany State game was the championship game. So you came in, you set the record straight. No, actually,
It
that
was Fort
Fort
Valley.
Valley game and Benedict was
Yep,
so
because we beat Albany, so that was the game when we both were 4-0. And then it was a great barometer because that was mid-season, so we saw Benedict in mid-season form and Fort Valley in mid-season form, and just looking at the schedule, like Benedict has been dominating. That now they haven't only been holding these teams to low numbers on defense; they've been scoring too. So that's another thing too we have to really factor in. So that's why I'm like. Benedict, I think they pulled a win and make history.
I'm gonna say this again. I hope Coach Bear is back for another year because he's good for the conference, and he need to come back because they're gonna have unfinished business because it's going down Saturday at 2:00 in Columbia, South Carolina, and I'm gonna take a picture with Coach Thomas at the scoreboard.
Oh yeah,
Right
and
at
we
the
can flick
scoreboard.
it up. Hey, we definitely can flick it up. And in fact, listen, once we win, I'm flicking it up with the trophy, man. Hey, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna get me a ring
you
because
will be
I'm a
getting a tag.
diehard Benedict college fan.
Soon
I
as
need
it
I
pops
need a
up,
ring.
you getting a tag.
I need a ring too.
Oh, Chris, what's your comment? I know you look at it from all different sides. So tell me how you feeling about the championship game.
Well, first of all, it's interesting that this is not a neutral site game, and it's being played at Benedict. Um, any team to me that can really have a good rushing attack um, can really control their other opponents and keep offenses off the field. But both of these teams are really, decently to really good at that. To me, I think the bigger difference here is just going to be Benedict and how they have so many different weapons that they can use and have done so very consistently over the season that I just don't see them really stopping that at home, even though I guess this is supposed to be somewhat of a neutral site, but it's really not. I just think Benedict is they see the prize there, and I don't see them. Even though I agree that I think that Coach Ruffin has the experience here, I just think Benedict might be a little too much.
But Coach Berry got the coaching pedigree also, so we can't leave that out. He has the coaching pedigree.
I agree with pedigree. It's just that we also just seen, Coach Ruffin actually coach in a game like this, and I think that's where people are looking at They don't want to count Coach Ruffin out because he has been in these high stakes arrangements before. So, again, it's nothing against Coach Berry. I think we just wanted to see what actually happens in this situation.
And look, at that whole neutral stadium. Listen, Tuskegee Nation is gonna be there. The shed is coming. Okay, don't worry about it. We turning into what's the stadium name?
Y'all coming into the jungle, baby.
Listen, we gonna turn the jungle into the tiger cave. Okay, it's gonna be so much crimson and gold in there. Y'all gonna think, wait, what's going on here? Matter of fact, y'all should give us the home side and y'all should take the visitor side.
Oh no, okay. Now let me just say this too, real quick. So like that changed like in 2017, like because like Fort Valley Tuskegee was the first time the SIAC East held it and Fort Valley hosted it, and then I know the last time 2019 I went when Albany State played Miles. So theoretically speaking, it is a neutral site game. If your school does it where for the students, your student fee pays for the ticket, that does not apply. So students have to pay for tickets, and that was a big thing in 2017 where we were like, listen, and we were so ignorant at that point because the game was on ESPN3, and if you know, that don't really matter. But like we were like, it's gonna be on ESPN, y'all. Make sure to come out, be at the game, wear blue and gold. Like we were pushing that so hard because we thought that have the students having to buy a ticket would discourage them. But of course, it being on campus and it being within walking distance from your dorm, people came out. So while it is a neutral site game theoretically, and that's how they treat it, it is a home advantage because like if it's on campus, people are going to come out in support. So it is a neutral site game, but it definitely going to be a Benedict home game.
And that's what I say. Even like game day preparation is important, man. Like having the kids already know walkthrough time is this time. They already know we got a team breakfast. They already know what a home game is like. So again, all the things that can happen on the road, all the things, it's so many unknowns when you have that little grace period before the game and all of that stuff. So again, that's going to be in the favor of our kids, man. It's home game. Just got to make history. That's it. We chasing history Saturday.
Man, listen, these 2 hours blew by. Actually, we stayed on longer than 2 hours tonight.
2 hours 30.
Listen, I appreciate everybody coming out, man, supporting us, building this SIAC community. Like everybody said, it's quality ball being played in the SIAC, and sometimes some of our institutions get overlooked. And so this space is just to build community, build friendships, bonds. When we come out, we all support our institution. We talk a little trash, but listen, after Saturday, I'm gonna be right back in Benedict's corner because I want them to do what they need to do in the playoffs. So with that, I'm gonna let everybody else say their last parting words, and we're gonna close it out for the night.
Yes, so I'll go in and go up. First and foremost, I appreciate you all for coming out. If you all want to hear the replay of this, it's on HBC Pulse's YouTube. I want to make sure we gave, that arm, to this because as a Fort Valley graduate and a proud member of the SIAC, I'm SIAC. I definitely think these conversations should be had. Make sure to follow HBCU Pulse at HBCU Pulse on YouTube and Instagram, the HBCU Pulse on Twitter, as well as TikTok. If you're in here live, you can click, like you see you see the account right there for HBCU Pulse. So make sure to click that and follow. And I'm going to be doing like a whole breakdown. I'm doing research. I'm going to be doing a whole breakdown coming out probably Thursday of my thoughts on the SIAC championship and also the CIAA championship on HBCU Pulse Radio. So make sure to tune in to HBCU Lead Pass, channel 201. That's the HBCU Pulse channel. And you'll get that breakdown. And we'll be back, next week. To talk about what happened. It's going to be real interesting.
Yard Talk, Chris, and everybody else, Flex. I will appreciate you guys coming on, man. Another week of SIAC football talk. I'm going to leave you guys with this. Go Tigers. Benedict Tigers, that is. Let's bring it home, baby. Let's bring it home. Good night, y'all.
Well, let's see it.
Tuskegee by 10. Y'all have a good night.
Wait. D2. Wait. He said Tuskegee by 10. Before we go, we had Coach Thomas give his prediction. I gave my prediction, so I know you're saying Tuskegee. But how do you think the game's gonna go? What's the score? Because you're real good at it.
I'm gonna say a 27-28 game.
I like that. I like that.
27-28. That's how I'm gonna go.
So final drive, block field goal. Tuskegee makes a field goal. Are they down? Like, how do you see it?
A missed extra point by Benedict. That's gonna be Benedict. That's what's gonna take them out. You need a kicking game to win championships.
Coach Thomas, D2 really good now. Just keep that in mind. 2027. All right.
Hey, that ain't happening. Benedict by 21. You heard it here first. You'll see me Saturday. We storming the
that
field.
was fun, man. That
we
was really fun.
Great
conversation.
Benedict,
let me get my earphones back on to make sure we good.
All right.
Hey, I was talking over the audio. My bad. I forgot it was a delay. But yeah, and I was talking over me. That's interesting. I was talking over me. So that was it. So that was a very great space. A lot of great stuff chopped up, when it comes to the game on this week. I honestly think, like I said in the space, I think that Eric Phoenix is a dynamic quarterback. I believe that he and Northern Scotland, that offense, I don't think Tuskegee is going to be able to solve them. I've been able to see a lot of Benedict games just simply because of the fact that, you've seen their games on HBC League Pass Plus. You had the game against Savannah State that was on ESPNU. And then, of course, that Allen game. You can go back and see the tape and see how Benedict's offense is so dynamic. And then for that offense to be great, you also have a defense that's stout. And at a point going into the Albany game, they were holding teams to 8 points a game. And of course, that number has changed because you've seen they've blown out teams. And of course, Allen has scored points and Clark Atlanta, scored points. They shut out Morehouse. But I think it's going to be a competitive game. You can't count out Coach Ruffin. You can't count him out at all because he had that championship pedigree and swagger being at Miles College. But Coach Berry, he's from Division I. He coached at Southern. So he's seen big time football. So I don't think he's going to get those jitters. I just don't think he's going to get it. But I just think Benedict wins. It's hard to, in anything, it's hard to go against history. And I just can't go against history. I think that Benedict is going to have a motivation to make history for their program. No matter what, this was a legendary year, and they still were undefeated in the regular season. But I think that they're going to concoct a plan that is going to get Tuskegee off their game. And even D2 HBCU football, if you listen to what he said, when I asked him, when he said 28-27, he said it's going to be a close game. And he knows this D2 football. That's why he's D2 HBCU football guy. That's why he says he's him. He's had some great predictions. So it's going to be a close game. I hope it is. I hope it's a classic. I hope it's something that we tell our kids about. I hope it's something that, I'm an old alumni if I'm so fortunate, and I'm telling, I'm old and I'm 50, 60 years old. And I'm saying, man, back in 2022, Benedict College beat Tuskegee and they were undefeated. And they went into the playoffs 11-0 and they had a bye. That's what I hope that I'm blessed to do in about 20 or 30 years in talking about, SIAC play and what occurred. So great space. I appreciate everybody for listening. If you're still listening, I really do appreciate you. Once again, follow HBCU Pulse on Instagram and YouTube at HBCU Pulse. Follow us on Twitter and TikTok at the HBCU Pulse. Make sure to check out our website, hbcupulse.com. And also make sure to check out HBCU Pulse TV, channel 201. We're bringing back Battle of the DJs. It's going to be really fun. The next couple of months are going to be really cool. And my birthday's coming up. It's on Christmas. So make sure to stay tuned for that. And we will be back on next week to react to the SIAC Championship. And I will be breaking it down on HBCU Pulse Sports with my co-host, Ariel Kilgore. We're going to break it down and we're going to talk about it. And I'm really going to dive deep into the numbers and how the numbers bore out to me, Benedict winning. But thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, we'll see you on the other side.
Like what you hear?
Yeah.
Subscribe to HBCU Pulse Radio on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, head to hbcupulse.com to stay up to date on what's going on